Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Hughes of the World. I'm the Hughes. This is the world, I guess. How's it going this morning amongst you all? It is, it's Thursday, the 23rd of April, 2026. It's St. Giorgio's Day. Giorgio, something like that. It's a saint. It's a lesser known saint in the saint world. Diz, keep rubbing, good for health. Indeed. Oh my God, I'm glad my coffee's hot. I was a bit worried then for a second. I thought, is my coffee going to be cold? I thought I put the kettle on, but it actually didn't. Sorry, a bit late getting started today. Little forces beyond my control. Slightly my fault. Slightly my fault, but generally beyond my control. Big shout out to, who have we got in the chat? We've got L, Butterfly Effect. We've got Viper Scott. We've got Diz. We've got Billy. We've got Colin, Mr. Tisk. Got One Angry Pagan. We've got Dog 4x4. We have got Saz in there as well. Gallifreyan Wren, hello. We've got Sarah Davis. We've got Richard. And I think that's... and we've got Sophia Lance as well, at least. And maybe some others. I don't know. If you're watching this, right, and you see people talking in the chat and you think, do you know what would be fun? I could just write something in there. Do you know what I mean? It could be completely random. I don't know. But, as long as it's not nasty, as long as it's not bigoted or mean, subscribe to the channel. And you can have your say in real time, like live. That's crazy. I know there's a bit of a 20-second delay, but, we get around that. Happy St. George to my English mate. St. George is very happy. He seems like a very happy man, riding around on his dragon. Killing horses or whatever he does. Anyway, so today we're going to be talking a little bit about the AI bubble, mainly because there's been quite a few articles. Obviously, this has been going on for a while now. People talking about the AI bubble. It's about to burst. But I don't really want to focus on the bubble so much as just the nuts and bolts of it. And I know we've tiptoed around this subject before, or not even tiptoe, just plowed into it. But AI is being sold as the next industrial revolution. Governments, investors, and tech firms are treating it like electricity, or the internet, or the steam engine, like a rev, or the jet plane, like a thing that's going to change everything forever. And the problem is, whilst theoretically, I can completely get on board with the idea that this could be an absolute game changer, the actual product is still wildly unreliable. We're talking hallucinations, bad summaries, invented facts, broken reasoning, and the constant need for human oversight. And I describe it as a calculator that gets half the answers wrong. You wouldn't call it revolutionary. In fact, it would probably make things more difficult because you would have to check the sums every time because you can't rely on the fact that it's 100% right. AI is terrible at making maps. It's terrible at drawing charts. It's terrible at doing a lot of technical things that humans find quite easy and quite intuitive. And the reason for this is it's got no sense of context. It hasn't got all of human experience, growing up, learning things slowly, brick by brick, like humans have. And also, it's got no creativity. So it can't spontaneously create something. It can only do a facsimile of what's already been. And this is a central problem. The hyped price, it's been treated like a meme stock now for a couple of years, it's being priced like it's a certainty, but the product isn't. I mean, it's not as useful in its current form as the price suggests. And that it's a gamble. This whole thing is a gamble that they're going to iron out the glitches. But here's the thing, they keep on bringing out new generations, new large language models, and improving on the last. And they improve a little bit. I mean, when ChatGPT first started, it could only give you news stories up to like 3 years ago. So you'd be typing in like, what's happened this week? And it would go, 3 years ago this day. And you're like, I don't need to know what happened 3 years ago. But there is a lot of difficulty with getting what you want out of AI. That is the problem. And if these the real issue is, right, if AI was just this little thing bubbling away in Silicon Valley, fun little startup, that had a couple of $1 million invested in it, and it was like quite exciting, you had these new things that could do this stuff, that would be great. But the money at the moment going into AI, it just can't justify the future returns nor present reality, and if the returns don't start arriving quickly enough, then all this spending that's going on, all these data centers, the Nvidia cards, etc., it's just gonna that it is just gonna maybe not burst, maybe not like a pop, but a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money, and the knock on the global economy is going to be huge, And like I say, large language models still hallucinate. They generate answers that are fluid, persuasive, and wrong. And it's not a side issue. It's the central commercial weakness of the current generation of AI tools. In fact, there was an article yesterday or the day before, which showed that CEOs were not finding. So there was an NBER study of 6,000 CEOs, CFOs, and executives across the US, UK, Germany, and Australia. 2/3 said they used AI, but average usage was only about 1.5 hours per week. A quarter said they didn't use it at all. That is extraordinary compared with the hype. AI is supposed to be transforming civilization, but most execs are basically using it like a fancy spell checker. It's good for making notes, good for taking minutes from a meeting, perhaps. And economists are now comparing this to they call it slow-low productivity paradox from the 1980s. This is where Robert Slowlow said, you see the computer age everywhere, but in the productivity statistics. And the same criticism of the tech revolution, the IT revolution of the 1980s, is being made now. You can see AI everywhere except in the economic data. And it's not showing up in the employment data or inflation data. And outside the what they call the Magnificent Seven, the AI companies or the tech companies that are embracing AI, outside of those, there are very few signs of AI boosting product profits or margins or anything much. And the big reason for this is it's just not reliable enough. And you look at what happened with Sora. So Sora was this thing where you could make these little 5-10 second videos, and it looked shite. It was just AI slop. And people used it. It used loads of energy. They burnt a lot of oil, burnt a lot of gas, creating those thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of videos, shite videos that no one's ever going to see. No one's ever going to see, because people have to do 72,000 videos to get the one that they wanted. Finally they wrote the right thing in there. This like I say, the fact that it's often wrong. This is nothing new. Traditional software could be buggy, but it's supposed to produce the same result from the same input. Generative AI doesn't do that. And you got the garbage in, garbage out problem with normal tech, right? But you could put something absolutely perfect in to AI and get out garbage. You could put in a Nobel Prize winning author's treatise on a particular thing that they are an expert on, and it'll still trot out garbage in response. So the garbage in, garbage out thing doesn't even work with AI. You can make no mistakes whatsoever, and then the AI will just hallucinate, put things in there that weren't there, make up names. Eurosh, thank you very much for the 10 euros. That is very kind of you. Blah, blah, CW. Is this going to be a full episode about AI? Not necessarily. I'll probably go off on some tangents at some point. You know what I'm like. And plus, we're going to go to the papers in a bit. Just sick and tired of talking about Mandelson and Trump. Miss Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £20 super chat. As a retired computer programmer, I think AI is where the general purpose computer was in the 1950s-ish. Promising, but seriously untested. It needs a lot of academic work, i.e. the commercial lot needs to get out of the way. Yeah? Yeah, like I said, I mean, if it was just something that was going on in Silicon Valley and it was these little heart startup hubs that were putting this stuff together, I'd be like, this is really cool, you know, it could be quite an interesting, cool little technology. But as it's being marketed as this world-changing thing, but it still gets too much stuff wrong. It cannot make a map. It cannot make a map. Ask AI to make a map for you, and it'll approximate a map from a map that it's seen. And you're like, that's not how a map works. A map has got to map what is reality. You know, what I want is, how about we have an AI where you could just type in, make a transport map based on, you know, these maps. I'm going to give you these images of maps. Not even images. I'm going to give you these links to Google Maps, and I want you to make a transport map for this city based on the bus lines, on the train lines, and you think that should be something that'd be so useful if AI could do that and put that together. That'd be brilliant, but it can't. It just fucks it up. It doesn't know what it's doing because it's got no sense of context, no sense of creativity, and no sense of continuity either. This is what we saw with the it's this Coca-Cola ad that came out last Christmas, where it was it was like the Coca-Cola trucks. It was all AI generated, and the number of wheels on the trucks kept changing between the shots because it's got no sense of continuity. It's got no sense of what came before needs to continue being the same. And these are things that are innate to human beings. Like, we don't even think about it. This goes back to the whole what is it, the not the tragedy, but the curse of knowledge. The curse of knowledge, which is, if you know something and you've known it for years, there's a very good chance that other people that you're speaking to, you're going to assume that other people know the same thing that you do, but they don't. That's the curse of knowledge. You've got the knowledge in your head. You know what it is. And the usual test was, they got some students to clap, and people had to guess what they were clapping. And they before they went and asked people what they were clapping, they had to estimate how many people would get what they were clapping. And half the people, they said that half the people would get it. Like, on average, people say, yeah, 50% of people know what I'm clapping there. But they knew what they were clapping, and they were playing the tune in their head. But to everybody else, it was just a series of claps. In fact, only 2% on average of people actually got what it was. And that's the curse of knowledge. And that's something that humans have a lot. We have a lot of innate instincts. We have gut instinct, which is a real thing. You know, I know it sounds a bit woolly, but yeah, it is a genuine thing. People do have gut instinct. They go into a situation and spidey sense starts tingling. And AI's got nothing of that, no context, and it can't create. I think that's probably its biggest limitation, and probably good that it can't create, because I don't want it to replace artists. I don't want it to replace cartoonists. I don't want it to replace musicians. It can only take what's already come before and sort of mash it together. Gets very boring very quickly. Now, you don't want the talkie toasty who goes on about toast. Indeed. Miss Paula Thomas, £5 super chat. Part of the trouble is that it does not have the human ability to ask itself whether the question whether the answer it is giving is reasonable. Yeah, Paula, absolutely. But yeah, but the way that AI is now being shoehorned into everything. Like, I do not need AI's help to write a response on fucking WhatsApp to me mum saying, "Are you all right, Graham?" And I'm like, "Yeah." "Oh, hang on. I'll put that through the AI thing so everyone can read what my private messages are." Do you know what I mean? I'll put it through an AI thing. "Yeah. What have you got?" "Well, I've got an answer for you." "What's the answer?" "Yeah. 42." Great. And this is the problem with generative AI or large language models. It bases itself on probabilities, and it can produce a brilliant answer one moment and an absolute fucking garbage load of nonsense the next. And as a human, you don't know necessarily if it just gives you a wall of text. You don't know, and you might not have enough time to actually read through it and go through it with a fine-tooth comb. So you've got to take everything that AI generates with a pinch of salt. And And when we talk about like the things that AI can do, there are some really good things that AI. Pattern recognition is really good with AI across large data sets. You're talking about 1 million data points that would take a human a long time to go through. Folding proteins, for instance, in medical experimentation, the AI can produce a lot more than a human can over the same time period. And in that respect, it's great. But at the same time, it can't write a novel. It can't write a book that's any good. It can't write dialogue because it just sounds flat. I mean, even if you've been using AI for a while, you start seeing the cadence of AI. And it's not just about M dashes. It's about doing things in threes, which is a thing that I do because it's a thing that politics. I've always done that. And I've also used M dashes as well, which really annoys me now because I've stopped using them in case people think what I'm writing is AI. But yeah, I've found that my writing has become a lot more colloquial since AI came along because I don't want people thinking that I'm writing to them using AI. So it's all like, you're right, mate, what's going on? Do you know what I mean? But then again, I mean, I can ape that, can't it? It can say, write it in an over-familial tone. But yeah, the groups of three and the M dashes and the it's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's this. Yeah, AI does that a lot. If you see that in an essay, it's been written by AI, I guarantee it. Or it's been written by Jeremy Clarkson's writing team on Top Gear. So yeah, why I think the calculator analogy is quite apt about this because of the checking you have to do, but also because a calculator got half the answers wrong, right? But it got them nearly right. Like, you couldn't just look at that answer. So you just put something in and the answer's over 1 million, right? You can't just look at that and go, that's wrong. You know, if you typed in what is 1 million times 1 billion, right? And it came up with the answer 3. Straight away, you would know that was wrong. But it doesn't do that. It gives you an answer that looks right at first glance. And this is the thing with AI across the board. AI slop, AI images, AI videos. They look right at first glance. They look, yeah, that looks normal. And then you're like, oh, no, that's fake. And the fact that I keep seeing on Facebook is really depressing. You know, you have 2 mutual friends in common with this person. And I look at the image, and it's a little tiny little thumbnail image on my phone, and I'm like, that's AI. That's AI. There's no way that a woman with that symmetrical a face will be standing on a beach to get that photo in soft focus with the exact lighting required to make her look particularly beautiful with the hair. Like, you're right next to the sea, love. No sense of context. No sense that, you know, you've got salt in your hair, you've got sand all over your body. Yeah, no, it's going to be fake. It's going to be fake. But then there's ones that like you look at and you're like, how can anyone be taken in by this? Like when a kid from Africa's who's got 7 fingers on each hand and 7 toes on each foot, and they're making something amazing out of garbage. And it's like they've put a load of tin cans together to make a crocodile. And you're like, that looks shite. It just looks absolutely shite. The other thing you can look out for is text. It doesn't do very well with text. So you often get that sort of thing that looks like alien writing. I call it alien writing that AI likes to do. Where it'll put like a swirl or something that looks a bit like an A, but it's not an A. Again, no sense of context. One Angry Pagan, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. My own area of specialisation being the biological and geological, my understanding of AI is a bit confused. I thought AI was supposed to be a learning machine, essentially, or have I got that wrong? No, it's essentially predictive text. It predicts what you want by you giving it an instruction. So you say, can you write this essay about the fall of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette? And it'll spit something out. But in the same way that, you know, your old Nokia used to have a word that would come up when it thought that you were typing in a particular word. It was like, oh, is this the word? Were you trying to type in anti-disestablishmentarianism? And you're like, yes, that's exactly what I was trying to type in. Well done, thank you. But yeah, a calculator gets half the sums wrong. It's not a revolutionary calculator. It is a toy. And I think that's what AI has been used for. And this is why Sora was such a fucking disaster. Because people just saw it as a toy. People just saw it as a joke, a gimmick, a gimmicky thing that you can make gimmicky fucking videos. Let's make a video of Tom Cruise having a fight with Neil deGrasse Tyson. And you're like, okay. It's like when children go, they get the dinosaur and they have the He-Man and they have that He-Man and the dinosaur fighting. And you're like, cool. Yeah. Looks shit. Looks fucking shit. And one of the things that I always think about computer graphics in films, CGI, obviously that's been around for a long time. The first use of computer graphics, I think, as far as we're aware of modern computer graphics in a movie, was young Sherlock Holmes in 1985, I want to say, which I saw at the cinema, actually. Terrifying movie, done by the same people who, it's George Lucas, wasn't it? So it's done by the same people who gave us Return to Oz, which I also saw at the cinema, which was also freaking terrifying. But yeah, there's a stained glass window that comes to life in young Sherlock Holmes, and the graphics for that were done. The Pixar machine, Industrial Light and Magic. And then Howard the Duck was such a catastrophic failure that George Lucas had to sell off some of his kit. A bit of his kit was the Pixar machine. Sold it to Steve Jobs. True story. Anyway, but yes, the reliability. We can't be putting all the world's money into what is being seen as effectively a toy, a little plaything for people to have fun with, to reimagine themselves as Studio Ghibli characters or whatever. We need reliability. And in the sectors where AI is most aggressively marketed, reliability matters like crazy. Law, medicine, finance, coding, education, traceability, accountability. This can be a matter of life and death. And if humans have to consistently verify the machine's output, the labor has not disappeared. I mean, it's a helping hand, I guess. Here's what the answer could be. But at the end of the day, you've got to double check everything. Because at first glance, yeah, it does look like it works. But then when you delve in a little bit deeper, you start seeing the mistakes. And yeah, computer graphics in films, the best computer graphics are the ones you can't tell are computer graphics. That's when you're like, wow, that is really good. Like Forrest Gump in 1994. They have the scene with Lieutenant Dan where he's lost his legs in Vietnam, and he swings around and it looks like he's got no legs. Now, it was quite a simple, trick to do that. But still, it looked real. It looked absolutely real. No one would have thought that it was a special effect. Well, you must have known it was special effects because Gary Sinise, the actor, obviously does have two legs. But then Jurassic Park, where they used a minimum amount of CGI, they didn't have to make it all singing and dancing. You compare that with other films of the time, like Lost in Space with Matt LeBlanc, which was fucking awful and had a digitally created character. I think it came out the year before Star Wars Episode 1. So Star Wars Episode 1 with Jar Jar Binks can't take the credit for having the first fully digitally rendered character. I think it was the first one that spoke or something. But I mean, it looked in Star Wars Episode 1, it didn't look so bad, but in Lost in Space, it looked bloody awful. And so my point is here, like, you can make these videos using computers with real actors, but they've got dead eyes. There's no spontaneity. There's no tangible. It's not tangible in the same way that it is when you actually film stuff with real people in real sets, and or even just a blue screen backdrop, whatever you want. But if it's real people, and you look at the times that they've put a digital character into a film. I was watching Rogue One not that long ago, and I forgot how bad the Tarkin thing is. Why? Just get another actor that looks a bit like Peter Cushing. But no, they decided to resurrect him using fucking CGI, and it looks shite. The thing is, like, no one cared about actor bloody continuity. They changed actors in soap operas. Lucy Robinson went round the corner to get a cup of tea. And she came back a completely different actress in Neighbours. It happens. It doesn't matter. You get used to the new actress. I think Melanie did the same thing. It doesn't matter. You get used to the new actor. And in Star Wars, in the past, you had one guy playing Jabba the Hutt in the first film, which then, like, they got rid of that scene. But it was a bloke. It was a big fat bloke with wearing bear skin or something. Now he got recast as a big space slug. There was the image of the Emperor in episode 5 what's it called? Empire Strikes Back. Was done with I think it was a woman's face, actually, wasn't it? It was a different actor, and it overlaid with that of a chimpanzee. And that was replaced by Ian McDiarmid in the next installments. You had Darth Vader, who was played by one bloke. He had the voice of another bloke. And when he took his mask off, he was played by Sebastian Shaw, another bloke. Right? It's fine. That's what Darth Vader looked like after he'd taken, but no, we have to replace him with the ghosts at the end with Anakin Skywalker. Just want to say as well, do you not feel deeply uncomfortable at the fact that when Anakin turns to the dark side, this white, blonde, Aryan boy, right, who flirts with fascism, when he turns to the dark side, he begins speaking in the voice of a black man. Is that not problematic? I feel like that should be more problematic than people have probably made out. I think it should be seen as wildly problematic. I'm not saying James L. Jones is an absolutely awesome actor. Of course he was, but at the same time. But yeah, so in the same way that with movies, you want the CGI to exist, you want the props to exist without thinking all the time, oh, that's fake, oh, that's that blood is tomato ketchup, that alien is a puppet, you want that suspension of disbelief, I guess. But imagine you're watching a movie and just like loads of things are distractingly wrong in it. And I think that's the big problem, is like there's a car and it's traveling down the street and it's upside down and it goes behind one of the characters and you just see this and you're completely taken out the story then. Why was that car upside down? How was it traveling? How was it moving? The wheels were on the top. What was going on? And so this is why I think, Apple has just kind of given up on AI, which I think is a good move. It's just letting other people do it, and other people carry the can, so it's working with Google now. But Apple's research on these so-called reasoning models found that these systems do not reason in the way that they are advertising. Like I say, the labor that you need to do anything has not disappeared. It's simply being rearranged. In some cases, AI can speed up draft work. In other cases, it creates extra work that wasn't there before. And this paper from Apple that came out, they found that as task complexity rises, performance can collapse. Rather than have like a smooth scale smoothly upwards, it just collapses. And this is because the public sales pitch increasingly depends on the word reasoning, and these aren't reasoning models. They're not thinking really in the way that we think, in like a robust human like way where you're fact checking all the way along. And many of the grand claims about autonomous agents replacing skilled work are premature. Would any of you, even people like, say this to anyone who's like mad about AI and thinks that AI is going to change the world and everything, just have this one little question for them, right? And the question's this, right? Would they spend £1,000 of their own money on a holiday that had been put together by an AI travel agent? Would they? Would they fuck? Would they fuck? There is absolutely no way that they'll just say, yeah, I'll let that AI be in charge of what flights I get, how I get to the airport, what hotel I'm staying at, or guest house, or couch surfing, or Airbnb. I'll let it write up my itinerary for my holiday, and I'll do what I'm told by the AI. Of course not. Of course not. They wouldn't put their money where their mouth is. I mean, they could use AI to come up with an itinerary. They could say, I'm going to Pisa for 5 days. What's there to do? And the AI might come up with some good stuff. but they're not going to put their money on it. They're not going to go like, oh yeah, can you buy all the tickets for me? They're not. They're just not, because no one's that fucking stupid. Well, I know some people are. They bought Bored Ape, what's it called? NFTs. I forgot what they're called for a moment there. But yeah, benchmark scores can flatter performance, and models can look spectacular in curated tests, and then fail real world tasks, which are messier. This is a big problem, where the tech context is incomplete, instructions are ambiguous, and also the cost of error is very high. In coding, where AI has shown its strongest results, the story is mixed. High benchmark scores do not mean a model can be trusted to build, test, and deploy and maintain complex software unsupervised in the wild. It's just not happening. It's like, yeah, you can get this car in perfect test conditions up to 200 miles an hour, but actually on real roads out on the street, it can barely make 70 because everything's not optimized for the product that you're trying to hawk. And the technology is real. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not interesting. I'm not saying in some ways it is revolutionary, because I think it is, but not on the scale that they're saying, and the money that's being pumped into it. We'll get into that in a moment. We've got the business model problem, but the tech is real, but the claims that are being made on its behalf are like way bigger than it is at its present capabilities, and I think they're bigger than future capabilities. I just don't think it's gonna happen. I just don't think it's gonna be the thing that people are saying it's gonna be. I think it is 99% hype. I think there is a real issue here with AI stock turning into meme stocks, like Tesla. Umka, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Sorry, €5, even better. In the words artificial intelligence, the main word is not intelligence but artificial. In other words, fake intelligence. Yeah. But it's not even intelligence, because it's not intelligence like we imagine intelligence. It can make connections like a human mind can make connections. If you're ADHD, apparently you're very, very good at making connections. That's why you annoy your partner by stopping a film 15 minutes in and going, this is what's going to happen at the end, and then pressing play, and then smugly watching the thing that you said would happen. But yeah, the AI doesn't necessarily pick the right, because it's got no sense of context, doesn't necessarily pick the right things to connects things that aren't actually there. It makes it mixes its metaphors, let's say. But the main problem with the business model is AI is so eye-wateringly expensive, and this is why Sora, the video toy, went tits up, because it was just too expensive and it wasn't making any money. It was just burning money and burning fuel, burning carbon-based fuel. Training frontier models costs huge sums. Running them at scale also costs huge sums, because the inference it requires chips, electricity, cooling, networking, data capability, data center capability. I mean, you got to build these facilities. The industry has not yet clearly proven that revenue will comfortably exceed those costs across the board. Most people use AI for free. The vast majority of people use AI for free. And there's not that many people who are paying £20 a month to run it. To run a better model where you can get more stuff out of it. But this is, some companies, a lot of the AI companies are actually backed by. It's different from the dot-com bubble, because the dot-com bubble, it was just all startups, whereas this is not necessarily startups. I know some of them are, but like when you look at Gemini, which is Google, or when you look at whatever fucking what Twitter is doing these days, but it's based off Grok. Sorry, it's based off money that's already there, like in another part of the company that is pushing this AI thing, right? So it's not quite the same as the dot-com bubble, and that's why I don't think it's going to pop the same way that the dot-com bubble does. But a bubble is not, a technology that's useless necessarily or does nothing. Obviously, we had the dot-com bubble, and it's not like the internet's not been useful. A bubble is when real technology attracts unreal valuations and unrealistic expectations. And I think that we need to go through an expectation management exercise for AI, for every person saying, oh, we're going to get rid of half our workforce, we're going to replace it with AI. It's like, yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Just for the covfefe, need it fixed. Thank you very much, Viper Scott. That's very kind of you for the super chat. And Umka there with the €10. The problem is that LLMs exploit our cognitive weaknesses. We believe not in what is true, but what sounds better. Better story. People do not critically assess what LLMs spit out. Yeah, very good point. And the propaganda war that we're going through is quite fucking horrific at the moment. But thank you very, very much for the €10 and also for pushing us over the edge, which means that it's my proud duty before God and my country on St. George's Day, 2026, to release the confetti. Boom! Okay, so thank you very much to everyone who's chipped in for the Super Chat Fund and made my day and Diz's day, I hope. Sending love and hugs to Diz because she's fucking awesome. You're awesome. But yeah, so what was I talking about? I was talking about AI, wasn't I? Bloody hell. But like, .com companies weren't fake because the internet was fake. You know, the internet was real. The bubble came from timing, valuations, hype, the assumption that every company attached to the trend will make fortunes. And AI may well be in a similar phase. I think that it is. The tech is real. The use cases are real. But the spending and valuations may still be excessive relative to what can actually be monetized in the near term. And investors are just not betting on AI adoption. They are betting on rapid AI adoption, sustained pricing power, high margins, and a fast enough payoff to justify the current infrastructure boom. And it's a very demanding set of assumptions. It only takes one of those assumptions to fail for the market story to weaken. And here's another problem. A lot of the large language models are very similar to each other, right? So you can imagine, you don't have to imagine. You go on your smart TV and you've got certain platforms that you can pay for. So you've got Amazon Prime, you've got Netflix, obviously you get BBC iPlayer, that's free, but you've got options, right? And those channels have different shows on. So if you want to watch The Boys or Invincible, you've got to go over to Amazon. If you want to watch, I'm trying to think of a Netflix show here. If you want to watch Tiger King or Adolescence, you've got to go to Netflix. If you want to watch a catalogue of Disney movies, you've got to go to Disney Plus, right? So they're offering different products, similar shops, right? But they have different products in the shops, right? We've got 7 big AI companies, and all of them are selling the same thing, right? And you're only going to subscribe to one. You're not going to spread your subscriptions across different AI models. Why would you? Why would you? That just sounds ridiculous to me. Like I'm not going to pay to use premium Gemini at the same time using Anthropic and then at the same time using ChatGPT. I'm just not going to do that. I'll pick one that seems to work best for me, and I'm going to stick with that. That means that out of me, right, as someone who is very tech savvy and spends a lot of time on the internet and is the perfect customer in some ways, I know I'm not a business, but as an individual using AI, I'm only going to be spending £20 a month. That is it. One company is going to get £20 a month off me, if that. But because another company might offer me the same service for £10 a month, I might switch and go with them. And it's like, okay, how is this going to work? How is this? You're all offering the same thing. You're all offering a chat assistant, essentially, to pretend to be a human and talk at you. And you can ask them to do very simple tasks, and they tend to fuck that up quite a lot. But, sometimes they get it right. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm just a lay person. I'm not an economist. I don't gamble on the bloody stock exchange. I'm not in Wall Street holding a bit of paper up saying, buy, sell, buy, sell. I don't do any of that shit. I'm just an outside observer orbiting the planet, eating me popcorn, going, hang on, how does that work? How do the sums add up? Because they're spending trillions with a T on this stuff. And how do they expect to make the money back? Do you know what I mean? Like, if a billion people take up a particular AI, right? And they actually pay for it. So we've got a billion paying customers, and they're all paying £10 a month for your service, or 120. So just gross profit you could make out of a billion people using your product for £10 a month is 120 billion. Maybe let's say 20 quid, right? Let's say 20. So 240 million is the most you can make in a year, is the most. But these companies are getting like $1.5 trillion, the valuations. I'm like, how are you going to make that much money? Even in a perfect scenario where other AI engines don't exist, when there's no operating costs. Obviously, there's massive operating costs. You've got to buy the chips. You've got to maintain these underground bloody storage depots that are filled with servers that are kept alive by the burning of the juice of dead dinosaurs for some reason. I cannot see. If someone came into the bank and I was the bank manager and asked for a loan to set up a company, and the books were this like out there, I'd be like, hang on, but there's other companies doing the same thing. You're not the only one. And other companies might do it better. They might do it cheaper. What are you going to do then? You're going to have to make your product cheaper or make it better. Either way, it's going to be really expensive and cut into your bottom line. And you're not going to get a billion people using your product. I mean, the other way, I suppose, would be through advertising. So when you type in to your AI, it'll come up with, halfway through. So now would be a good time for you to go and get a Coca-Cola or something like that. People will stop using it. People are like, fuck this. Like, we're getting rid of Amazon Prime because they keep putting fucking adverts on it. Can't be dealing with adverts, mate. I'm sorry. Cannot be dealing with adverts. Just get rid. No, we're getting rid of all of them. I would get rid of all of them because, But obviously, the kids like Disney Plus, so we've got Disney Plus. But all things being equal, I wouldn't have any of them. Because, I have my Corsair ways. Anyway, Umka, thank you very much. Free open models will win, in my humble or maybe honest opinion. Thank you very much for the €2, Umka. And yeah, that's the thing as well. Last year, or maybe the year before now, it was a while ago, there was a Chinese startup called DeepSeek, and it was doing really, really good generative AI for like fuck all money. It was like compared with what the Americans were spending on it. Eurosh, thank you very much for the €10. What I fear most from AI is how it affects expertise. If people are trained to just accept AI answers, they will never look for a better solution. Computer says no becomes very real. Yeah. That's a really good point, Eurosh. That's a really, really good point. Just accept the AI. Computer says no. Yeah. Most of the ads on Amazon Prime seem to be for Procter & Gamble products. Yeah, and they have a thing, don't they? So you can actually press on your smart TV to go and buy it off Amazon. It's really grim, really fucking grim. But yeah, we have Amazon Prime because Catherine's a member of what is it? She pays for Prime, so we get things delivered to the house for less. This is something that we got during COVID. We haven't stopped it, but the TV side of it, it's just a freebie for us. Like, we're not interested in that. We're interested in getting stuff delivered for free. But I mean, the Rings of Power. Did you watch that? Did you watch that abomination? Jesus Christ! It's like they got all the worst elements of Game of Thrones season 8, and they went, let's put that together into Middle Earth. When I got my first mortgage in the 80s, you had to have an interview with the bank manager. Most decisions since then have been AI based. It's been around for decades. Well, yeah, it's not AI, is it? AI-O, as the farmer said. No, I don't know. It's not AI, is it? It's just based on statistics of your credit score and stuff, and you get an automatic yay or nay. It's not up to the individual bank manager, so you can't, bribe him with alcohol like you used to be able to. Turn up with a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label under the table. Go on, go on, go on, go on. Tell you what, though, you're mentioning mortgages in the 80s, Martin. I am sick and tired of hearing older people. Quick, press the button, Graham, before you go on. No, not all boomers. I'm sick and tired of hearing older people, not all of them, but some of them, saying, but we had 15% on our mortgage. I'm like, yeah, it was a mortgage for like 20 grand. Fuck off. 20% of 15% of 20 grand is a lot less than 6% of 300,000. A lot less. Oh my God. Oh my. Anyway, Rings of Power gets my goat. Young realtors are going to find it even harder to find work because modern writing sucks. Let's use AI instead. I don't think that. I mean, from what I've seen, from what AI pumps out, it's very limited. And it's not. I find it useful to use for just getting a context. I know it sounds mad to go on about the fact that AI has no context, but when you're writing something based on historical events, like 99% of writing it is research, and the AI does help with a little bit of that research. And I'm not talking about just like dates and times, things like that. I'm talking about, give me an impression of what a particular place would look like. What would it smell like? What would it be, in the 1730s, which is kind of useful because you need, that sort of thing. But then again, if it doesn't know, it'll just make up an answer that it thinks you want to hear, which isn't perfect, but it can give you a step in the right direction. I know some of my friends use it for this as well. It's more like spitballing ideas. It's quite interesting because a lot of whenever I do a show on here, I ask chat GDP or whatever it's called, GPT. I ask it for some title suggestions, and 9 times out of 10, I don't use one of their suggestions, but I will put together a couple of their suggestions to make a much better, snappier, funnier title. Or especially if I'm trying to do a pun or something, but it doesn't seem to get the whole. It doesn't get puns. It doesn't get like alliteration. It doesn't get like what would grab people. It's very beige in its thinking, and that's kind of like the crazy thing about AI. Okay, well, it's beige, that's great, but then again, now and again, it'll just put a splash of fluorescent fucking paint up the wall, and you're like, why did you do that? It's like, well, just hallucinating, wasn't I? My first mortgage was £14,000 on a £15,500 flat. Was earning £6,000 a year. Yeah, Mr. Tisk. So 15% on 14k is fuck all compared with 3% on 300,000 is that's 9 grand. That's 9 grand a year, just in interest, which is in a year and a half that would have bought you flat. Mine was 18,000. I was earning about the same as Mr. Tisk. Had to save 10%. Life was good, wasn't it? Wasn't life good in the 80s when Margaret Thatcher privatised all of our properties and then gave them to people who decided they needed more than one, and then made everyone else the rentier class. But there you go. Best of luck, Sarah, today with what you've got going on. Going to view a flat. Okay, cool. Good luck, Sarah. But yes, we're talking about the AI sort of, the comparisons with the .com bubble, and the there's a very demanding set of assumptions. Like I say, if you had 1 billion people paying £10 a month, you're only getting 120 billion pounds, which sounds a lot. I mean, it is a lot. But then you've got all the expenses that you've got to pay for, all the overheads, the electricity, all that kind of stuff, data centers. Don't forget these chips, they've got to renew them every few years. It's not like they've got some chips and they're going to create the AI for the next 50 years. You build a wind turbine, it'll last 50 fucking years these days. You know, you put a solar panel there, it'll produce electricity for ages. You build a battery for a new car, they don't have cobalt in them anymore, no coltan, which is fantastic. They don't have the toxic chemicals in that they used to have. And also, they're giving a guarantee now with electric cars of at least 8 years on the batteries, sometimes up to 10 years. That means that they know those batteries are going to last for 20 years. Because otherwise they wouldn't be giving guarantees away like that. It's always half of what they expect it to last for, just in case. They've got to cover themselves. They don't want to be paying out for everyone's new battery at the end of the 8 years. Because it's like 7 years and 11 months in, my battery's fucked. And the depreciate, the way that batteries can't hold as much charge after so many years. The actual reality of people who've got electric cars, it's only going down by a couple of percent over years. And then, and this gets even better, at the end of their useful life, and it might be 20 years, so the batteries will outlast the car, those batteries can be broken down and recycled. And so the raw materials we need to put those batteries together is going to be less and less in the future. If you compare the absolute hype on AI, which is very kind of, in my understanding, is quite short-lived. Obviously, there are going to be newer chips, which are going to be more specialized. And process data even faster. And so you got, 3 to 5 years? You're going to have to replace all of your data centers with new shit. The outlay on that is astronomical. So it's not even stuff that you can say, right, we've built this now and we're good for the next 50 years. Because it's not even the case of that. You're not buying a product like a phone or a Commodore 64 or something that you're going to have to replace in a few years' time as tech gets better, so you can play Doom and things. That's not going to happen. You're not buying that. You're just using the product. You're just using the service. They're the ones having to deal with all the hardware that needs to be replaced and will need to be replaced, obviously. Gazumping was horrid. Yeah. I got a deduction on the flat because I was renting it from the council. That was the last year you could buy council property. I'd rented for 18 years. That's why I said I was very lucky. Yeah. I mean, come on. Like, I was talking the other day about bloody just dumb luck. Like, there's so many of us who can just look at something that happened in our lives. And yeah, we could go, that happened because I'm brilliant. That happened because I'm amazing. But the reality is, most of the time, it happened because you were fucking spawny. And you have bad luck. You have a run of bad luck, but then something comes along. It's just life, innit? Anyway, but yeah, so a very demanding set of assumptions, and it only takes one of those assumptions to really fail catastrophically for the market story to then have this domino effect where a lot of the world's economy, because the world's economy is tied in with the US economy so much, it starts to really fall apart. And I've got to talk about the spending on AI infrastructure. And like I say, this isn't like a fucking building a lighthouse that is going to last for 300 years. It's not. But Reuters reported estimates in the region of roughly 630 to $650 billion capital expenditure from the biggest tech firms centered on data centers, chips, cloud build-out, and AI infrastructure. That is not ordinary sectorial growth. We're talking about over $500 billion in one industry, in one segment of one industry. Do you know what I mean? This isn't the IT revolution. This isn't the .com revolution. It's like we've got computers now. Yay, we've got the internet now. Yay, we've got social media now. Yay. This is just one part of it. Sorry, social media is a bad example because that is one part of the internet, but you know what I mean. But it's economy shaping expenditure on the assumption that AI will stay red hot and has enough customers to justify it. And they also reported forecasts of more than $800 billion next year. They're actually ramping up the spending on this. And it's not just a big number. It's like it's accelerating. It's getting bigger. And a large share of this is concentrated in just a few firms. Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet, Meta, the center of what they call the CapEx wave, while NVIDIA sits in the middle as a key supplier of the hardware, powering this AI, powering the AI, powering the boom. And when a boom is carried by a small number of giant firms, the market becomes more fragile because everyone is exposed to the same story at once. If something catastrophic happens and it happens because someone trusted AI when they shouldn't, this could happen very soon, the way things are going. And then all these companies go, oh shit, we've got to stop using AI. Or even worse for the industry, governments start regulating AI because they go, you can't rely on this stuff. You can't put people's lives on the line when it comes to, you can't use this in a way that puts people's lives on the line. And one of the knock-on effects has been that in recent years, as the market in America especially has become heavily dependent on a small group of mega cap tech firms, the Magnificent Seven, as they're called, now account for roughly 1/3 of the S&P, the Standard & Poor's 500, based on market value. So you imagine you've got the entire market, 500. It's called the S&P 500. It's 500 different companies, right? So of those 500 companies, 7 of them account for roughly 1/3 of the economy, and 1/3 of the value of that entire market, which is nuts. And it skews everything. It skews everything in the same way that I think I was discussing this the other day, where I was talking about there was a meme going around about if Britain was an American state, where it would rank in different states. Hang on, I'm gonna find this. If UK was a US state, rankings. Okay. Let's see if we can do this. Yes, here we go. Got it. Brilliant. I'll save that. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up on the screen because I just want to I'm making a point here. Let me make my point. Here we go. If the UK were a US state, life expectancy, this is at 51 states, right? Because obviously we're with the 51st. Number 1. Lowest homicide rate, number 1. Lowest gun deaths, number 1. Lowest prisoner population, number 1. Healthcare coverage, number 1. Paid maternity leave, number 1. Statutory paid holiday, number 1. Years in education, number 1. Lowest road deaths, number 1. Lowest drug deaths, 2nd. Minimum wage, 3rd, which I find surprising because, there must be a couple of, New England states that actually provide a decent minimum wage over in America. It's usually been a bit shit for people. Pupil performance, 5th. Environmental performance, 5th. Human Development Index, 9th. Lowest obesity, 10th. But here's the one that I want to talk about. GDP per capita. We would be 51st. Why? Why is that, right? Well, GDP, although I use it in my book, Man of the World, I use it, telling you about countries because I think it gives a good... it gives a good overall sort of view of where a country is, right? I think I give the GDP per capita, I think. But GDP is not a great way of measuring the success of a country. It can give you a good ballpark idea, but when it comes to the lived reality on the ground, it can be skewed, and it can be skewed massively. The example that you can give is that you have a village with 100 people in it, and one person is a billionaire and everyone else is living below the poverty line. The GDP per capita of that village would be every single person in the village is worth at least 10 million. Like, do you see how that doesn't work? It doesn't flesh it. It's like, well, hang on, no, but people are living in poverty. 99, the people of the 100 living in that village are living in absolute poverty. Yeah, but there's one person with loads of money, and we're seeing the same thing happening with the stock exchange, with the the valuation of the Nasdaq and the S&P and the FTSE and all this. It's being skewed by these one individuals that have lots and lots of money, and this is what happens in America. You have a few billionaires living in Tennessee or Mississippi, and even though the poverty rate there is absolutely off the charts, that's not reflected if you just look at GDP per capita. And so you'll have people who are evil or stupid evil, like that Truss creep, and she'll go on TV and say, well, if America, if we were a state of America, we will be 51st in terms of GDP. I'm like, yeah, that's because we don't have as many billionaires living here. That's it. That is it. We just don't have as many billionaires. Good. I don't want billionaires. Billionaires are fucking psychopaths. But one of the reasons why Ireland's GDP per capita just went fucking crazy over the last 20 years, whereas Britain stayed pretty much the same. Actually, went down. Britain's GDP per capita, it went down. It was £50,000 in 2007. And 15 years later, it gone down to 45,000. I think it's gone up again now, but still not great. But yeah, we can blame austerity, Brexit, COVID, Truss for that. The ABCTs. Please help Marcus after the hacking of his channels. Subscribe to this channel. That's from Viper Scott. Thank you very much for sharing that. Listen, someone's trying to get into my my website. Someone's trying to get into grahamdavidhughes.com, and I keep getting messages on my phone. I was a bit late getting started this morning, and I didn't actually get it sorted in the end. But I need to turn on two-factor authentication on WordPress. And the only way I can really find to do it, because I've been in all the settings, I was literally going through all the fucking settings in WordPress to try and turn on 2FA. But it was to put in a plugin, a 2FA plugin, and I'm really kind of concerned. I don't want a third-party fucking plugin from a WordPress. But there you go. Miss Paula Thomas, pork markets, says Gallifreyman. Sorry, Miss Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. If I was MD of Nvidia, I'd be shitting myself. Arm, the UK firm who designed their chips, have announced they're going to produce chips in the UK. Oh, that'd be cool. That'll be very cool. Gallifreyman, back in the day, I got a telling off from my geography teacher when I asked why we were learning to calculate Brazil's GDP and what relation it has to anything. Because GDP also includes everything. It includes like the defense spending. I think they changed it so it even includes like the selling of drugs. You know, I was talking about the BBC doing lots of like stories that would help fuckers out. And you know, I said that I bet me at that that they'll do a story in the next couple of weeks about trans people doing something horrible, right? They haven't done that yet. But what they did do today, which I thought was really interesting, they've done an investigation into corner shops selling drugs, right? Which is something honestly laudable. Obviously drugs isn't laudable, but yeah, do an investigative report. But it's very interesting that the pictures that they used are of people of Pakistani heritage or Indian subcontinent heritage, and this comes a couple of weeks before Refuck, who are the racist party, are doing racism. And they're getting the racists on board. I'm like, what? Why is the BBC doing all these investigative reports that are making immigrants look bad? They made asylum seekers look bad last week. Remember that? They did 3 different stories on the one Panorama report about asylum seekers claiming to be gay when they weren't. Or pretending to, that they were in an abusive relationship when they weren't. A tiny, tiny percentage. And then they had a story having a go at Meghan and Harry for some reason. This mad story on the BBC. Oh, no one turned out to see them. It wasn't like when they were proper working royals. Loads of people. Look, there were people lying in the streets. I went to speak to some guy in Sydney. I said, "What do you think about Meghan and Harry coming here?" And they went, "Who are they?" Not mentioning until the 5th paragraph that they didn't actually make their itinerary public. So why the fuck would anyone turn up? Because no one would know. There you go. I told Meta AI that it is lying and spreading propaganda. It got hostile, says L. Yeah. All right, geography. We were never taught where any country is in relation to each other, but we calculated Brazil's GDP and investigated why wind speeds pick up between tall buildings, obviously, says Gallifreyman. Yeah. Physical geography, human geography, bit different. I'm embarrassed of how little I knew about the world when I first started traveling. I am shocked to my core at like how badly positioned I was. I couldn't do history and geography. for my GCSEs, because the year that I was in, because I was born in 1979 for some fucking reason, it's probably to do with Thatcher and Major and fucking Kenneth Baker. Kenny Baker, didn't he play R2-D2? Anyway, as a result of those motherfuckers, I had to do CDT. We had to do CDT, but the CDT teachers were, very skilled in joinery and metal craft and bending bits of acrylic sheets. Weren't too hot on the whole, programming, coding, which is what we should have been learning. Should have been fucking learning coding, not how to cut wood with a bandsaw. Oh, good, I got a bandsaw. It is a throwback to when us staties would obviously get a job in a factory, getting our thumbs chopped off on a bandsaw. But it wasn't what we needed to learn, and so I left school, went to university and studied history and politics without having a real grasp of geography. And I remember being in a debate. I was part of the debating society in university, and we were talking about it couldn't have been the Iraq War, because it was before the Iraq War, but maybe we were gearing up to go back into Iraq even back then. But it was mentioned, and I said something like, "Well, it's a long way away from here, and I was absolutely skewered in the debate for saying that. I was a long way away, and it was from just a place of pure ignorance. At that time, I could not show you where Iraq was on a map. I had no fucking clue. I thought that Bolivia was in Southeast Asia. I thought that Borneo was in South America. I thought that Brunei was in the Middle East, and I just didn't have a fucking clue. And I really think that it's a bit shit that we had an education system at the time where you couldn't do, the education system, the national curriculum that come in for us staties, like the privately educated people who put this in place didn't have to do it. Their kids didn't have to do it because they went to private schools, and you don't have to follow the national curriculum if you go to private schools. You don't have to have qualified teachers if you go to private schools. You don't have to, until recently, you didn't have to pay any fucking VAT if you went to private schools. But the private schools didn't have to pay. They didn't have to be inspected by Ofsted. Mind-blowing, absolutely mind. So let me get this straight. You don't have to follow the national curriculum, yeah. And you can get anyone to be a teacher. Yep, my mate down the pub who's a bit sketchy, who has all those. He just likes to rip up old pornos and put them in the hedge, and we'll make him a teacher. Okay, cool. And we're not going to have any national kind of inspectors coming around to check that you're not abusing the children. No, not doing that. Cool. Let me get out the asbestos. Yeah, absolutely. And to go onto this point, right? You can't, about context, this is why it's important. You can't understand history unless you understand geography. You cannot understand why the world is the way it is without understanding the geography. Even now, even today, what's happening in Iran, what's happening in Ukraine, it's all based on geography. That's what it is. The existence of some countries. Afghanistan is a really good example. Afghanistan is a loose connection of different tribes who have different customs and different languages and different, different flavors of the same religion, but different flavors nonetheless. They were put together as a buffer zone between the Russian Empire in the north and the British Empire in the south of Asia. And that's, it was put together by other people. You look at a map of the world, you see a straight line in it. That was probably put there by the British. And all the heartache and trouble that you've seen over the years that have come because of those lines drawn on a map by a British cartographer who probably never actually went to the place that they were going to. You need to know this to get the real context of the history of what happened. Look at Indian partition. When India, British India as it was in 1947, got split into three. Well, split into two technically, but it did get split into three because obviously you had West Pakistan and East Pakistan. East Pakistan became Bangladesh. West Pakistan became Pakistan in the 70s. But that led to the death of over 1 million people. The brutal, violent deaths of over 1 million people, men, women, and children. And the lines that were drawn by a British cartographer who had never been to India before. They should have spent years working out how to do that properly. And they didn't. They just drew lines on the map. Have a look at they've made it a little bit better now. But oh my God, have a look at the historic boundaries of India and Bangladesh. In the north of Bangladesh, there's all these little exclaves and enclaves of each other's countries over, because it was literally they drew a circle around a Hindu village in what was going to be Bangladesh, or it was going to be East Pakistan, and they said that's part of India. And then they drew a line around a majority Muslim village. It might only be a majority of 51%, but a majority Muslim village in what's now India. And they said, okay, that's part of Bangladesh, or East Pakistan. You want to know why these things happened, but then you look at geography, you look at where oil is, you look where natural resources are, you look where rivers are. Obviously, there's a lot of contention going on now between Ethiopia and Egypt, because Ethiopia has dammed the Nile River, the part of the Nile River that flows through Ethiopia. I can never remember whether it's the White Nile or the Blue Nile. I'm gonna look it up. White Nile. That's Sudan. The White Nile is a river in okay. Yeah, so it's the Blue Nile. The Blue Nile comes from Ethiopia, from Lake Tana, and the White Nile comes from Ginger, spelt like Ginger Island, in Uganda, on Lake Victoria. That's where I got the name of Ginger Island from. I love a bit of smashing pumpkins into small putrid pieces of debris or something. That was the old cheat code for. It's hard to remember the old cheat code for Doom. ID, smashing pumpkins into small pieces of putrid debris. God, I can't believe I can still remember that after all these years. Anyway, so yeah, where are we talking? You've got these 7 companies, right, that are accounting for a third of the S&P 500. And it means that ordinary people are exposed, even if they've never bought AI stock, because pension funds, trackers, index funds, and passive investments all funnel exposure into the same names. And this is why people are starting to worry. Michael Burry, who you might have know from the film The Big Short, he's one of the characters in that. He has warned about AI mania, regarding it a little bit like the tulip mania that overtook the country of the Netherlands back in the day. He was who played him? Who played him? He was played by Christian Bale. Yeah, there you go. He was played by Christian Bale in The Big Short. So that kind of annoying character, which is probably not Michael Burry's fault. It was just, just Christian Bale's a bit annoying, isn't he? Do you find him a bit annoying? Is that just me? But yeah, he's warned about AI mania. He said that, AI is not imaginary. He's not saying that it's not real. It's not going to, do some cool things. But it's that the capital is piling into a narrow story with self-reinforcing optimism, and it's typical of a type of mania. And George Savavelos of Deutsche Bank has argued that AI spending may be effectively carrying US growth at the moment, which is a striking warning, because it implies that the wider economy may be weaker than the headline figures suggest, because just like the billionaire living in the village, it's skewing all the numbers. Once you strip out the AI capex boom, then there's not much there. And if one theme is holding up growth and markets and sentiment all at once, that theme becomes systemically important. This is like your tentpole release of the summer. If that goes horribly wrong, your studio could shut down. But in this case, there's 7 big studios and they're all making the same film, and you're only going to go and see one of them. Tell you that now. So yeah, systemic importance means a slowdown stops being a niche tech issue and becomes a microeconomic issue. And John Chambers, who ran Cisco through the dot-com era, said there would be dramatic winners and spectacular train wrecks. And this is worth stressing, because it's not a blanket anti-AI argument, and that's not the argument I'm trying to make today. It's just a warning that real revolutions create carnage. They create they produce bubbles and wreckage and the winners and losers. And the problem is there's so much leverage now in these companies that if one or all of them fail, it can have real world impact on people's jobs, on people's pensions, on their investments. And I keep mentioning the dot-com bubble, and I know that is not an exact one-to-one. It's very different. And like I say, the difference is mostly that when you had dot-com bubble, it was based on a lot of companies throwing money at young Silicon Valley types to build a website, whatever, boo.com. And they were it was all startups, whereas there are established players like Google, like Meta, like Twitter, or whatever the fuck it's called these days, putting money into these into this technology. So they do have something to back them up if the AI fails, or they don't make as much money as they thought they were going to. But what happened with the dot-com bubble is that the timing and the valuations got ahead of reality. It was the internet was going to be worth an absolute fucking fortune for Amazon along the line, which survived the dot-com bubble. Don't forget, it'd be worth an absolute fortune for eBay and the PayPal, which was spun off from eBay. And obviously then came Facebook and stuff like that, but that didn't survive the dot-com bubble. It came afterwards. But the amount of money that was available in the internet wasn't there at the time that all this money was coming in. And they were like, it's coming. And it probably might have done, but they just couldn't sustain themselves at that level of expenditure and that level of investment needed for the first few years to really get it off the ground. And one of the big problems I see with this is, like, you don't need much money to make a website. Like, the government do this all the time. They build a website and they spend fucking millions on a fucking website. It drives me up the wall. I can knock you together a pretty good looking website in an afternoon on WordPress. It's fine. I'll just fucking do it for nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even, it's even easier than it used to be now, because you've got like AI to say, oh, I want to do a background that's like passport stamps or something. It'll give you an approximation of passport stamps. Although I will say, when I finish my little animation, my new animation for the background of these shows, it is going to be actual passport stamps from my actual passport. It will not be CGI. It will not be it won't be a JPEG that I've robbed off the internet. It will be actual my stamps from my passports, sort of fading in and out of the background slowly, so you know this. You know, we've got some movement. I like having a bit of movement. My CPU doesn't like me having movements, but I like having a bit of movement on the screen when I'm doing these, other than you chatting there. But yes, the infrastructure is already showing cracks with AI. It's a physical build-out story involving land, planning permission, power, transmission, cooling, specialist labor, financing, and hardware deliveries. And this makes it vulnerable to delays and bottlenecks. You cannot simply will data centers into existence with a press release. One does not simply walk into Mordor and set up a fucking data center. It doesn't work like that. Reporting in 2026 has already highlighted cracks in major projects. OpenAI and Oracle were reported to abandon plans to expand part of a flagship Texas data center project after financing talks stalled and needs changed. And even where companies have denied that projects are delayed, the wider point remains. Financing, timetables, supply chains, energy availability are all harder constraints than the hype cycle sort of likes to admit. And the UK case is very revealing. Now, recently, The Guardian reported that some flagship AI investment announcements were far less concrete than ministers and corporations suggested, with projects delayed, improbable, or still lacking the practical conditions needed to go live. And this matters because governments are using AI as a growth narrative. If the build-out is slower, weaker, less profitable than advertised, public policy can end up where we're spending public money and using time and public policy to prop up an industry that is a road to nowhere. Andrew Ray, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Labour government haven't sorted out the independence and non-political credibility of all the BBC board members. Action needed to restore its reputation. Yeah, absolutely agree, mate. Absolutely agree. They need to. They should be looking at Peter Magyar. Like, look at what Peter Magyar is doing. Peter Magyar is doing over in Hungary, and compare that with what Joe Biden did. Where Joe Biden made the same mistakes that Labour are making now. Well, he made them first. They should be looking at that and going, okay, case study here. We need to be being a lot more bold in what we do. It does feel a lot piecemeal when we should be at war at the moment. We need to be war against big tech, against these big companies not paying any tax, against the wealthy squandering the nation's wealth for their own depraved ends. We need to be, at war with the billionaires. We need to make sure that these fuckers don't control our country, our politics. And Nigel Farage is going to do very well next month in these local elections. Very, very well indeed. Most of that is down to Labour. Not Labour not delivering necessarily, but Labour just not being bold enough in what it has delivered. And having shit comms as well, as we often discuss. But yes, in the UK, there's also actually no, this isn't just the UK, but I mentioned it before. The hardware depreciation problem. Chips are not cash; they lose value over time, and if infrastructure takes a long time to get put in place, the hardware may be already less competitive by the time it's deployed. And so you've got this evolving market where these chips are getting more and more complex and more processing, and people will go to the data center that, or these companies will go to the data centers that supply their needs the most, or build the data. So you could spend a fuckload of money on a data center that is literally obsolete within 5 years, and that is. I mean, you just look at the risk profile on that. It's bad enough to borrow money against an appreciating asset. Do you know what I mean? It's worse when the underlying kit becomes obsolete almost as soon as it's turned on. It's that problem, isn't it? Buying a new car, it loses about 25% of its value as soon as you drive it out of the fucking showroom. And then you've got the big weakness of this, not just the logistics of making the chips and how difficult that is. And there's only one big chip manufacturer, and they've got to be supplied with the machines. There's only one company that makes the machines for these specialized chips, which is based in the Netherlands, and the chip manufacturers are based in Thailand. Thailand, what the fuck is wrong with me? Taiwan. But yeah, energy. AI depends on power. Literally, data centers need enormous and continuous electricity supply. It means the AI boom is tied to electricity prices, grid capacity, and geopolitical risk. Reuters have noted that energy pressures are now testing the economics of the AI capex surge, as they're calling it. If energy costs stay high or infrastructure lags, margins are going to get squeezed, and the more expensive it is to train and run models, the harder it is to defend the valuations against future profits. I am not going to spend £100 a week on fucking AI. I'll just do it myself. Like, in the end, I don't have that kind of money to be wasting on AI. I mean, it's bad enough having to spend money on the subscriptions. If you imagine, like, most people spend between 25 and 30 quid a month on their broadband. So you're gonna spend more than that on a program that you use on the broadband to do what? Make shit videos, make shit images that don't look right. Yeah, eBay don't own PayPal anymore. They spun it out. That was a while ago, actually. Data centers use vast amounts of electricity. We are talking megawatts of power of consumption every hour. Then they use a shitload of water to cool the servers and the equipment down. Yeah, and it's got to be clean water as well. It can't be salty water, so they can't use seawater to do that. My first day ever as a supply teacher, having retired early as a whole day, teaching groups of reception kids how to use a computer mouse. Hello, computer. Star Trek joke for you there. And contrary to the government's belief that data centers will generate high-skilled jobs, they won't. You only need a handful of on-site engineers to maintain a data center. The rest is remote access. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, yeah. Gigawatts. Why did he pronounce it giga? I suppose it was giga, wasn't it, back in the day? But then they changed it to giga, or pronounce it. Maybe just the actor in and 21.5, what was it, 21.4 gigawatts of electricity, whatever it was. Gigawatts. Yeah, we say giga now. Anyway, but yeah, this is one of the reasons why the current boom in AI looks more vulnerable than the pure software boom, because I was thinking about this, about how when you have these startups in the dot-com bubble era, their actual outlays weren't that much. It was just a bunch of nerds in a room with some computers, which were pretty fucking cheap to buy, standard computers, getting on the internet, building a website, using sometimes free tools to build the internet, you can code if you know what you're doing. You can open a notepad in Windows and just make a page full of code and make a website. That's what we used to do back in the day. We used to do Dreamweaver, but a lot of the time it would be a case of copy and pasting the code from Dreamweaver and then going through it on your own in Notepad to try and. So the Notepad comes free with the fucking software. Do you know what I mean? It comes free with the computer. Yeah, I've got Notepad. I can make a website. I remember gigawatt sounded wrong back when the film originally came out. Yeah. Questionable Absanity. Thank you very much for the £5 super chat. It's very kind of you. We have about 100 data centres planned to be built by 2030 in the UK, but not one of them is planned to be built in Scotland, where the energy is. And Saz has just dropped in a £2 super chat, which allows me to do this. 3, 2, 1. We're going to drop the confetti! Again, confetti. So there you go. We had our confetti. Fun. I want more. Positive feedback loop, isn't it? I'll have another cookie. 3 gigawatts is what a typical nuclear power station produces. Too hard G or not hard G? That is the question. Well, the guy who came up with GIFs says it's pronounced GIF. But I think that's just messing with people. Okay, so so this is why there's a very big difference between the software-based dot-com bubble and this very, very much hardware, labor-intensive, energy-intensive, tech-intensive, depreciating setup that they need to run this AI stuff. And a bubble does not pop because some people suddenly discover that the technology is useless necessarily. I mean, tulips are still beautiful and awesome, but they pop because the gap between expectation and return becomes impossible to ignore. Like the trigger could be an earnings disappointment, and AI heavy firms have spent massive sums in revenue growth, and they've spent massive sums, and if the growth of revenue doesn't keep pace, investors are going to start asking harder questions, and this is already happening. You're seeing weaker demand and more expense to create what it is in the first place. So you've got people who can't afford now to pay for a subscription for an AI usage. You've got companies that are looking at it going, this is fucking useless. That report last month, the CEOs saying, 75% of them going, well, whatever. That is worrying. That's got to be worrying. 25% of CEOs not using it at all. Not using it at all. They've looked at it and gone, yeah, no. Don't need a calculator that gets half the sums wrong. Miss Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £10 super chat. The computer I wrote a commercial program for in 1980 had less computing power than a modern watch. It used more electricity than a modern data center. Wow. That's insane, isn't it? Bloody hell. C-130 flying very low over Mersey in front of me. That's very cool. AI data centers are predicted to need 945 terawatts of hours of power by 2030. A single chat GPT currently uses 10 times more power than a Google search. That is crazy, isn't it? And question mark Santi, for those unaware, they had to switch off wind power in Scotland at times because there were a few bottlenecks in the transmission south. Any new industries should be built north of the M74. Yeah, question mark Sanity. I couldn't agree more. Put it where the power is. Put them where the power is. Put them in Scotland. And run them off renewables. But we also do need, because I keep mentioning this, we need bigger cables coming down south, don't we? So we need to have regional pricing on our energy. So Scotland gets fucking free energy because it produces all the fucking energy. That's what it should be like. God, imagine like Scotland's awesome enough as it is, but imagine if it was free energy up in Scotland. You move to Scotland, you get no tuition fees, you get free fucking energy. Your kids will all have a beautiful fucking Scottish accent, possibly red hair, who knows? I mean, come on, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want red hair? SG, thank you very much. I'll just take any hair at the moment. Thank you very much for the £20 super chat. 30% of the world's helium production, Qatar is offline, needs it for chips and fiber production. When production will restart, this alone will cause the AI bubble to burst. All stock markets are currently artificial, just like Michael Burry said in 2008. Yeah. Daylight says, yeah, and the ships need a month to get to the destination. It's not even started to produce again. So even when things come back online, they'll have to wait till the ships get there. Yeah, there is a lag. That is a lag. That's why aluminium was done in Scotland. Yeah. God, I fucking love Scotland. I want Scotland to get independent so it can be my place to run away to. I mean, technically I can run away to Panama now, but I can't take my family. I can take my family to Scotland. God, it's a wonderful place. Do you know Edinburgh? I don't know much about. I don't know if Glasgow really fits this bill, but Edinburgh, it's like you go there, and I don't know. Maybe just last time I was there on a particular sunny day, and it was just awesome. But there's so many beautiful people. There's lots of beautiful people up in Scotland, well in Edinburgh anyway, and in Liverpool and in Newcastle when I go out, like there's so many people who have to feel as though they need to be orange and wear ridiculous clothes, and it just felt a little bit more normal, a little less artificial. Let's say that a little less. And don't get me wrong, Liverpool is the greatest city in the world. When you go out on a Saturday night, there's a lot of people who look particularly artificial. They look a bit like, are they real? Are they real? Are they a real person, or are they just like a robot that someone like just put together with clay to approximate what a human being might look like? I don't know. Anyway, Scotland, fucking love it. Sorry, I'm just having a bit of a love fest now for Scotland. I just installed a two-factor app to my WordPress. You should do that today. Daylight M, is that safe? Is it safe? I mean, that's my worry about that. I mean, yeah. Is there an official WordPress 2FA plugin that is made by WordPress, or is it made by a third party? Two-factor authentication for WordPress. Yeah, it's by MelaPress, the one I'm looking at. And some people are giving it a 1-star review. Obviously, it'll give you backup codes, and I don't know who makes this, and they'll have your backup codes. So if they want to hack into your website, they'll have your backup codes. Yeah, I'm really concerned about giving that information, giving that power to some random plugin. Yeah, two-factor authentication. From the authors of Updraft Plus, WordPress's number one backup. Oh, okay. Again, lots of 1-star reviews. Yeah, I don't like this. I don't like the look of this. The best free option right now. It's easily maintained, actively maintained, easy to set up. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh, bollocks. Yeah, I've got my Google token generator, which is way better. If you get the choice, by the way, to set up two-factor authentication on your phone, and you can either get a text to your number, or you can get you use the Google, what's it called? Google Authenticator. Choose Google Authenticator, because that gives you a specialist code that is unique to your phone, and no one can intercept it. The problem with phones is people can intercept your text messages. So, that's the worry. You have to have some trust. Yeah. Google Authenticator is best. Yeah. But one of the downsides of that is you have these backup codes, and who gives you the backup codes? Some random coders who have put together a WordPress plugin. I use a passkey for stuff these days. The passkey is stored on my phone, which requires me to unlock my phone with a fingerprint to authorize the passkey. Yeah. Things have got a lot better in that respect, but I mean, hackers now. So if you've got an Apple phone, I would suggest that you turn off the function that allows you to pay for something without unlocking your phone. Get rid of that. It's something that is only supposed to be for transportation. So it's supposed to be something that you can use on the underground, so you don't have to unlock your phone to tap in and out when you go on the underground. But hackers have basically told that they have a way of telling your phone that it's going through a transport system without unlocking it, and then they can make a sale. They can take all the money out of your account in one transaction without authentication, without your phone being on. So yeah, turn that off and make it so that you can only use your phone to pay for something if you actually unlock it first. Oh shit, Marcus. Oh no, I guess you pissed off the wrong people. What's that about? Is Marcus in the chat? I can't see Marcus. Where's Marcus gone? But yeah, Marcus got his YouTube hacked, and this is a real fucking concern for me because I got so much stuff on my YouTube, and once it's deleted, you can't get it back. People just going around breaking into other people's stuff and deleting videos. There you go. Marcus, hi Marcus. Marcus is in there. I can't find Marcus in the chat. Where are you, Marcus? Oh, there you go. There it is. Hogwash politics. Sorry, I was looking for the word Marcus. I had two-factor authentications and still got hacked, and they changed everything. I am Marcus. I am Marcus. That should be a great name of a film, shouldn't it? I am Marcus. I'm Marcus, and so is my wife. Sorry, Marcus, mate. Yeah. The reason why I was talking about this, if you missed the beginning of the show, Marcus, is I've just got this morning when I was getting ready for the show. I've got like a stack of attempts to hack into my change the password for my GrahamDavidHughes.com site. So I need to shore up the security on that. But yeah, that sounds like something a bot would say. What? Not Spartacus. I'm Spartacus, and so is my wife. Yeah, but I mean, fucking hackers just shit. They're there all the time. I lost loads of stuff off my websites last year when hackers got in, and they just deleted a bunch of stuff. And I had a backup. The backup was from like 6 months earlier, so I lost a lot of the updates that I had done and had to start again with a bunch of stuff. And yeah, not great. NFC is secure for payments, and Google Android requires you to either unlock your phone before presenting it to the card reader. Says Chrissy. Yeah, but there is a thing on new Apple devices where you don't have to unlock it to get onto public transport, and you need to turn that off if you've got an Apple phone. Turn that off, and also make sure you got a limit on how much can be put on your phone. Be careful, they're using AI. Yeah, they are. Papers, please. Let's see what the gammons are up to and update our anti-refuck virus. Yeah, in a moment, my friends. I just want to talk a little bit, finish off what I was going to say about the AI bubble and where we are at this at the moment. Because I do think this is something that we need to talk about, yeah, we need to talk about what it's going to look like if this bubble does burst or the tire deflates, whatever you want to call it. It wouldn't look like an instant apocalypse. Do you know what I mean? It would look like a tech correction. Share prices in most AI exposed firms would come under pressure as investors reassess the growth assumptions, and then the second order effects will come in, and they will matter more than the first. If the biggest companies cut their what's it called, their cap, their market cap, and that hits the chip makers, the data center operators, contractors, utilities, and then the wider supply chain, and hiring would slow. The AI boom would has helped support recruitment and engineering, energy, data center construction, related sectors, and venture funding would tighten or perhaps evaporate entirely. Governments would be embarrassed because politicians who have built economic narratives on the AI-led growth like Labour have will suddenly have to explain why public money, regulatory favours, and grand announcements have not really worked as advertising. And there's a lot of passive money in the market. So these are, investments usually by pension funds, and they put a bunch of money into different shares, and they'll lose a lot of money. People will lose a lot of money, and especially in America where they have the 401s, don't these the 401s, 401ks, or whatever they call it, where they basically have a portfolio that's managed by a company that puts money into stock across the market, but they're particularly exposed at the moment if this does happen. A more dangerous outcome would happen if this, the outlandishly, overhyped AI stock has been, as many people suspect, been masking broader economic weakness, and you could end up with not just a recession but a genuine depression as a result of this. And we're not just talking about it being contained in the United States of America. We're talking about a shock that could be felt all over the world. And when we go into recession, people fucking die. That's it. That's what we've got to bear in mind. It's all very good being all idealistic and I'd love to do this and love to go around, eating all the billionaires so the money pops out of them. I think that's how it works. But the reality is, if we did that, we would have a market crash and people would die. Not the people that we want to die. And Britain's been trying to sell itself as an AI hub, and Britain has specific vulnerabilities, and the UK, I don't think will ever be a sovereign AI power, but you never know. I mean, if this is what you were saying earlier. Was it Paula talking about ARM wanted to start making chips here? That'd be brilliant if we could get one of those machines that they can only make in the Netherlands. Get one of them over here and start making our own chips. That'd be excellent. The thing with AI is it's not all it's cracked up to be. And we are betting the entire global economy on something that gets things wrong. Sometimes more often than not. And there are going to be very expensive consequences if this fucks up. And I've got a feeling that it's going to fuck up. And I've got a little bit of evidence. I've got a little bit of evidence. Who knows? Who knows? The world's upside down and crazy at the moment. Okay, should we go and see Anne Hathaway? I mean the papers. Here she is. Anne Hathaway there, wearing a dress. Wonderful. She's obviously the wife of William Shakespeare, who was both was birthed and carked it on this day, April the 23rd. So there's a picture of his wife there, Anne Hathaway, famously depicted in the movie Hamnet by the Irish actress whose name escapes me. Oh shit, what's her name? Oh, Jessie Buckley. Oh, thank God for that. Oh, thought I was going to be off the quiz team then. France must reduce migrant crossings to earn share of £100 million. PM should face Slee's inquiry over Mandelson. What's the point? It's not going to achieve anything. It's not going to get rid of him as a prime minister. He's doing a great job of that himself. Sick of your high-flying older sibling, blame germs. Having an older sibling can be a mixed blessing. You may have a ready-made playmate, but younger brothers and sisters must get used to hand-me-downs. They have to put up with sharing toys. Blah, blah, blah. If that wasn't enough, they also tend to do worse than their elder siblings in intelligence tests, exam results, and earnings later in life. Oh, they're the bollocks. I think the point here is that younger people in a family, the youngest in the family, get away with shit and tend to go in for jobs like this one, where you don't earn very much, but are much more fun. They don't have to be as sensible. So yeah, they can be more foolish with their lives. Here's another 660 million to stop the boat. So it was 110 million on the front cover of the Times. It's gone up. It's gone up by 6 times for the Daily Express there. Just times it by 6. Just whatever number it is, times it by 6. And then we've got a picture of some Charlie guy from the royal family, because, in case you forgot what he looks like. Talking of the royal family, there's Macca and Ringo are recording recording together again, which is nice. We've got Knox's letter to Letby, who was she's reaching out to the jailed baby killer, Amanda Knox. And then we've got Wendy is 56 in good health, sound mind, and loved by family and friends. But tomorrow she will take her life at a Swiss clinic. She reveals her life, why her heart is too broken to carry on. Oh, okay. That's a grim fucking story for the day, isn't it? Well, thanks for that. And then the sweet life of the. I've got to say, like, if we not all boomers, that's what I got to say. If we bring in assisted dying into this country, I don't think it should be allowed for people who are perfectly healthy. I think it should be only for people who are going to die of the thing that they are dying of, and they're just going to be in a load of pain for the next few days or weeks, or in my dad's case, years. And I don't want that. I don't want that for my dad. I don't want that for myself. I don't want that for anyone I love or anyone I fucking know, because it's fucking horrific, right? But that kind of story there is like, that's probably been paid for by some Christian group that doesn't want euthanasia in this country, to say, look, healthy people will take their own lives. And I'm like, that shouldn't be allowed in the UK. If that woman should be definitely getting the care and support that she needs to carry on with her life. There shouldn't be a mechanism for her to jump into a suicide booth like in Futurama. Really grim story. I fucking hate the Mail. God, no wonder the people who read it are so fucking twisted and evil. Because every day there's like, read some shit. It's always about some like wife who's leaving the husband because he cheated on her, or some person who hates their own children. I'm jealous of my own children. I want to eat them like for dinner because I'm a crazed psychopath, bloody cannibal. And it's like, oh Jesus Christ, human interesting story. Tolkien over Shakespeare any day. Ooh, don't know about that one, Angry Pagan. I think if you spoke to J.R.R. Tolkien about the influence of Shakespeare on the English language, and don't forget, Tolkien was a linguistic scholar. He was a lecturer at Oxford University on linguistics. A professor. He professed things. He would talk about the debt of gratitude to Shakespeare for making up over 1,000 words that we now use in our common everyday parlance. But yeah, I disagree. I heartily disagree. As a huge Tolkien fan, I think in the pantheon of all-time greats, I'm very, very happy to put Tolkien very, very, very close to the top. But if it was a pyramid and there could only be one, if it was Highlander, if it was Thunderdome in the Mad Max movie Beyond Thunderdome, and only one person can win, it would be Shakespeare. I put Shakespeare at the top. Absolutely. I mean, there you go. Don't forget, Tolkien did write some other books like Mr. Bliss and Farmer Giles of Wootton Manor. Is that right? Am I just making that up? Something like that. Farmer Giles of Ham? Was it Farmer Ham of Giles? Oh, I can't remember. Smith of Wootton Manor. So, yeah, he did write some other stuff that weren't necessarily set in Middle Earth, but most of his stuff was all set in Middle Earth, whereas Shakespeare wrote histories, comedies, and tragedies, which have influenced the stories that have been told. And if you look at the story of Beren and Luthien in the milieu of Tolkien, heavily influenced by Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, etc. Don't buy it. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. I don't see why Shakespeare gets singled out, because he was fucking amazing. It's absolutely fucking amazing. Like the guy, people don't think he was real because no human could possibly come up with all of those stories and still make them relevant to this very day. And do 36 or 37 of them, depending on who you ask. Leaf by Niggle. Yeah, that's the one. That's what I was trying to remember. And Peter Painterlot says Shakespeare is the undisputed, undefeated heavyweight champion of world literature. You can't beat him. You can't. I know we all stand on the shoulders of giants, but like a lot of people are standing on Shakespeare's shoulders. Not Shakespeare's sister's shoulders, but Shakespeare's shoulders. So Shakespeare's shoulders. Old Willy Willy Shake Shake. Whose birthday it is today and his death day. He died. He was born and died on April the 23rd. So that's nice, isn't it? Actually, I think we should change this from St. George's Day to Shakespeare Day, when everyone has to go out and recite some Shakespeare in the park. But yeah, I think there's room for both. At the top says Diz. If you want to look at, this is why I go about Star Wars, right? If you want to look at the influence of a particular movie on everything, Star Wars is number one. And it doesn't even have to be the best movie of all time. I don't think that it is. But for its influence, the knock-on effects of that movie existing is just indescribable. There's just so much stuff that we use every day in our lives that came about because Star Wars existed. And maybe it would have come about anyway, years down the line. But you've got directors who wouldn't have directed movies. You've got people who wouldn't have written a book. You've got people who were inspired to go out and make their own stuff. You've also got the tech that came with Star Wars that led to Industrial Light and Magic and Adobe and Pixar. You know, if it wasn't for Star Wars, you wouldn't have Coco. You wouldn't have Monsters, Inc. You wouldn't have The Incredibles. You would not have Toy Story. And controversial opinion, Shakespeare was the Tudors spin doctor. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, this is why he would be happy to write Richard III and present him as a monster who murdered his nephews in the Tower. Because Henry the Third was Richard III was killed by the forces of Henry VII, who was the granddad of Elizabeth, who was sitting on the throne at the time. So yeah, there was a lot of, and you think about like the histories, they're all quite serious, except for the Merry Wives of Windsor, which was about Henry VIII, which was kind of like a bit of a whitewash of Henry VIII's time as king. The Merry Wives of Windsor, 2 of them were fucking decapitated. What the fuck is wrong with you? But yeah. Then if we're going by influence, Rowling is a great writer. No, because I disagree venomously on that one, because she's not a great writer. And what she influenced, she's influenced people to like her thing, Harry Potter. But when it comes to other people writing a book about a bunch of kids who go to school and learn about magic, well, cool. Yay, that's a huge genre, isn't it? Kids go to school, learn about magic. So what have we got? Mrs. Peregrine's School for Weird Kids. You've got the new series of Wednesday. You've got, maybe you could argue, Wicked. But I think Wicked came out before. Wasn't Wicked mid-90s? But they go to like the Oz School of being wizards or something in that. The Oz School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, but it's not called that. It's called something else. The Oz Academy. Then you've also got The Worst Witch, which was written before Harry Potter, which involved kids going to a school and learning magical powers, but there being forces of evil out there who were trying to stop them from learning the magical powers for various reasons. So no, I think that the influence of Harry Potter, I mean, it's made a fuckload of money, but I think down the line, it made a lot of money for Warner Brothers, but its influence isn't that huge. Whereas J.R.R. Tolkien, I will say that bloody hell, his influence on the world of fantasy is massive. You wouldn't have Dungeons and Dragons without him. You wouldn't have Stranger Things. That's based on Dungeons and Dragons. You wouldn't have the George R.R. Martin books. You wouldn't have the Song of Fire and Ice. You wouldn't have Game of Thrones. All the fantasy novels that came after Tolkien stole from Tolkien. I mean, George R.R. Martin has the RR in his name because he wants to do a little homage to John Ronald Reuel Tolkien. And I know we can like sort of talk about superlatives in this way and say, well, this had more effect than this and whatever. But Tolkien's influence is massive, but it is restrained to the area of fantasy writing, fantasy films. Whereas I would argue Star Wars had a effect greater than it's just a knock-on effect of people making Star Wars knockoffs or, you know, being inspired by Star Wars to do stuff. It has actual physical things that we use every day in everyday life. The way that movies are made was revolutionized by Star Wars. The reason why we have digital films now, that was George Lucas pushing for that. Digital soundtracks, that was George Lucas pushing for that. The way that we make movies these days it bears a huge debt of gratitude to George Lucas for, you know, the good ones, but we can blame him for the bad ones as well. But yeah, I mean, non-linear editing, which allowed people like me to start getting into making music videos and short films and stuff like that back in the late 90s, early 2000s. That was facilitated by Star Wars. It really fucking was. The tech that went into making those movies and the people who came together to make those films, especially on the special effects side of things, that they, you know, fucking Photoshop came from Star Wars. So yeah, but then yes, Andrew makes a really good point. Star Wars was all influenced and created on Isaac Asimov's Foundation series, no question about that. Oh, and Dune starts on a desert planet with sandworms. I thought they make reference to sandworms, and spice running, spice made the Kessel run, the spice run, spice mines of Kessel. That's it, was it? Yeah. But the biggest influence on Star Wars was Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress. There's a really, really good. If I go get my copy of Hidden Fortress, one sec. Oh. I don't have that many DVDs these days. But if you get a copy of Akira Kurosawa's Hidden Fortress from the BFI, and you open it up, whoop, and it's got this wonderful little booklet inside it. Here you go, wonderful little booklet. And inside it's got all the story behind, you know, how it got made. And there's also little essays in this. So it's like a book of essays. Three Baddish Men, The Hidden Fortress. I'm going to just try and focus that. There you go. So yeah, they've got like Akira Kurosawa on The Hidden Fortress. And if you keep flicking through The Hidden Fortress, the view from 1961. So this is a reproduction of a review from 1961 that appeared in Monthly Film Bulletin. And then there's this article here, which is called How Star Wars Conquered Cinema with the Help of the Hidden Fortress. And if you look really, really closely and I focus in a bit more, you'll see who wrote that. It was either my evil twin brother, who has the same name as me, or it was me. So there you go. There you go. And if you buy a copy of The Hidden Fortress, you look out for my essay in there for the BFI on Star Wars. I'm not saying that I'm authority or anything on this matter, but yeah. But yeah, things influence each other. So Akira Kurosawa, who is he hugely influenced by? Shakespeare. You watch Ran, it's based on Macbeth. You watch what was the other? You watch, Ran wasn't based on, Throne of Blood was based on Macbeth. Ran was based on King Lear. And also, he was inspired by Westerns in America to make samurai epics. So he saw the samurai era as being analogous with the Westerns, where you had instead of the gunslinger, it was a sword slinger coming into town and dispensing justice. He loved that idea, and he ended up making Seven Samurai, which became The Magnificent Seven, a cowboy movie. He made Yojimbo, the bodyguard, which ended up becoming Fistful of Dollars. About the samurai goes into town and plays everyone, all the different groups off against each other. He massively influenced American Westerns that came after he was influenced by American Westerns and Shakespeare. So yeah, the influence goes all over the place, but if you want to talk about the influence of a particular writer, and it's Shakespeare's birthday today, so I don't mind going on about it a bit. But Akira Kurosawa, filmmaker from Japan, working, half a century ago. More than that, 70 years ago, he was heavily influenced by Shakespeare. Just personal taste, Graham. I prefer the way Tolkien told stories over how Shakespeare did it. Can't stand Romeo and Juliet, but love Beren and Luthien. Yeah, I mean that's fine. Obviously it is a little bit subjective of saying, I prefer this author to this author. But if we're just going to talk objectively about influence on not just English literature and English, theatre, movies, English language movies. We talk about movies all over the world. Shakespeare. Sorry, does actually. If you clock it all up, I'm sure there's some empirical way of taking all the metrics and putting it all together for influence of certain things. But isn't that mad? So Shakespeare influenced Akira Kurosawa, and Akira Kurosawa influenced Star Wars, which then influenced everything that came afterwards. And then Tolkien was also heavily influeed by the Icelandic poetic and prose Eddas and the fragments of the Anglo-Saxon myths. Yeah, what was left after the Christians destroyed them all. I like to play up my dislike of Shakespeare for funnies. I don't hate him. But I do think he's overrated. And not helped by the education system's literary hard-on for Romeo and pissing Juliet. I'm sorry, I've got a hard disagree on that, Gallifreyan Wren. Right, it's like saying the Beatles are overrated. What? No, they're not. You just don't like them. You just don't appreciate them in the same way that other people do. But to say the Beatles are overrated, to me, is madness, because you're talking about a band that put 12 groundbreaking albums together in the space of 8 years. Kept pushing the envelope. They changed the way music was recorded. They changed the concept of an album. They changed everything. Everything that there is before the Beatles and after the Beatles. And if you're going to talk about influence, it's absolutely massive. The Beatles' influence, you can still hear it in music today. It influences artists like Taylor Swift. She'll be writing a song and then she'll be looking for a chord progression and she'll go, what would Paul do? As in Paul McCartney. So yeah, I do get me back up a little bit when people go, oh, this particular thing that I don't like is overrated. Just say you don't like it. Just say you don't like it. It's fine. It just doesn't butter my parsnips. But yeah, don't say it's overrated, because it's like, well, I mean, Mrs. Brown Boys gets a lot of people watching it. It's not good. It's really, really not good. But no one rates it, do they? What makes Shakespeare so special is a remarkable gift for language, which has never been equaled. In terms of being a playwright, Ibsen is the closest to Shakespeare in talent. Yeah, don't forget, most of Shakespeare's writing is done in fucking iambic pentameter. Jesus Christ. So he's looking at the structure of the individual words that he was writing as he was writing them. I remember having an argument with an actress once who was doing Shakespeare, and she thought that people actually spoke like Shakespeare in Shakespeare's time. And I was like, it's in iambic pentameter, and there's a fuckload of rhyming couplets in there. Do you think people just sat there for like half an hour before they said anything so they could make it into a nice rhyming couplet? They're just like, what? The Beatles are overrated. Stop it, Gallifreyan Wren. Please stop it. You're going to upset me here, because I'm not saying that. I mean, how are they overrated? How? They came up. They're only around for 8 years. How are they overrated? Like what? They did over 250 songs. Like, and some of them are not as good as the others. But even the shit ones are still alright. Okay, I'm about to upset every Liverpool resident. While the Beatles did a lot for Liverpool in the music industry, they are overrated. I just okay, all right. You don't like them either. It would be like me saying that Swan Lake is overrated. And you'd be like, well, what the fuck's that got to do with anything, Graham? Well, I just think it's overrated, because I don't really like ballet. And I certainly don't like Swan Lake. Just a fairy tale with some prancing around in it. It's overrated. But that's not the reality. The reality is that Swan Lake is this amazing ballet that some people really fucking enjoy. I don't. It's not for me. But I don't think it's overrated. Although if it was overrated, I don't think it would stand the test of time. And the Beatles, fuck me, they have stood the test of time. There were movies that came out in the 1950s that you've never heard of, that had loads of hype about them at the time, and you never heard of them because they were literally overrated. People said they were like way at the time. The marketing was like, "Oh, buy this thing, It's really amazing." And then you actually watch it and you go, "Fucking oh shit." I'm happy to look at modern movies and go, "Yep, absolutely overrated by the people who made the movie." But what stands the test of time is stuff that you're still watching 30, 40, 50 years later, stuff that people are still listening to. There were thousands of artists in the 1960s. Who did people still listen to? Who are people still influenced by to this day? Beatles, the Kinks, the Who, even though the lead singer of the Who's a twat. But yeah, the Rolling Stones. I'm not going to sit there and go, "Oh, the Rolling Stones are overrated." Have you listened to Cocksucker Blues? Yeah, it's shite. They made a shit album on purpose because they wanted to get out of a record contract. Did I say Bowie's overrated? Did you see the shit he did in the 90s? It was crap. You know, number one Outside was all right, but apart from that, it was a fucking load of bollocks. I would say Radiohead were overrated. Not in the 90s when they were fucking great, but you know, the fact that OK Computer consistently still gets into the top 10 of all albums of all time, is it overrated? No, it's a really fucking good album. Objectively, it's a good album. It's, you know. But some people don't like Radiohead, and they'll be like, "What's this doing in the top 10? This is fucking shite. I hate this album." Well, I would say anything that they did after OK Computer was shite. Some people fucking love it. So yeah, I think we need to perhaps think about how we use our language and not say things are overrated, because it makes people feel like they're stupid for liking that thing. They're like, "Oh, you're just falling for the hype. You just read what you just read something in the Sun and you just believe it. You just read in the Sun, oh, the Beatles are the best band ever," and you go, "Oh yeah, they must be the best band ever. I don't have my own objective opinion about this." So yeah, it's you know, I just find it offensive, because I think it's kind of belittling what people enjoy and saying, you know, I don't like this, so I'm gonna belittle you for liking it. That's how I feel. Yeah. But that's the same with sport. People get really obsessed with sport and they talk about which is the best team or whatever. But would you say that Everton was overrated? No, I fucking wouldn't. They don't win anything. It's got like mid-table. But like, if you hate Everton for whatever reason, just you're going to be slagging them off all day when literally you should have a million better things to do with your time. I don't know. I just don't you get that with the whole saying, "Oh, this thing that is really, really popular is overrated." And I think that I would have defended Harry Potter back in the day and say, "Well, it's not overrated. It made a fuckload of money for, you know, for Warner Brothers, allowed Warner Brothers to make more movies on the back of it." But because I hate J.K. Rowling so much, I will say it is overrated because it's personal now. It's fucking personal. And I know that will upset her more than me saying that it's not written very well, which is not. And Harry Flash says, "I grew up with the Beatles. They changed music forever." Yes, they did. They did. Just objectively, they're not overrated. They are really, really good at what they did. And then it becomes subjective on whether you like it or not. If you don't like their music, if you don't like the movies of David Lean, it doesn't mean that David Lean made bad movies or he's overrated. It's just that it's not particularly to your taste. Or Orson Welles. You know, some people don't like Citizen Kane. Some people aren't that fussed about The Godfather. I'm not that fussed about The Godfather, to be honest with you. I think it's okay. It's not in my top 10 films. Probably not in my top 100 films, to be honest with you. That's just my personal opinion on it. But I'm not going to say it's overrated. It won the Oscar. It launched the careers of Al Pacino. The sequel launched the career of Robert De Niro, and it was, you know, that they are very, very, very well received films. It's a huge influence going forward. It's just I think it's all right, you know. Shakespeare wrote plays for you to watch, not study. If you are forced to study in school, then you're going to dislike them. Go and watch a good production, see what the fuss is about. Yeah, maybe that's it as well. Maybe people just hate it because they were forced to have it as kids. Yeah, forced down their throat against their will, and they're like, "What the fuck has this got to do with anything?" Yeah, good point. Romeo and Juliet still happens today with family feuds over religious differences. Muslim girls fall in love with non-Muslim boys and denying their parents' wish for an arranged marriage. Yeah. Um, Gallifreyman says, you bait me again. Swan Lake is overrated. Everything's overrated. Yeah, but I don't like ballet. I don't. Timothy Chalamet got in a load of trouble for saying this, didn't he? He said, "Oh, no one cares about ballet. No one cares about the theatre," or whatever the fuck he said. And yeah, he got into loads of shit about it. And they denied him his Oscar that he was supposed to get. I didn't get my Oscar because I said this silly thing. But horses for courses. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't see how I could say that, you know, in the noughties when Manchester United were winning the league every fucking year, that Manchester United were overrated just because I fucking don't like them. You know, or Michael Schumacher when he was racing and he was winning the Grand Prix championships every year. I didn't, you know, I feel sorry for him now, obviously, but at the time I was like, I don't like that Michael Schumacher guy. I want, you know, Jenson Button to win. I want Damon Hill to win. But I can't say he's overrated. No, is Usain Bolt overrated if you don't like watching running races? No, he's that particular thing that he does. He's good at it. Well, he was. He's a bit old now. Yes, the Beatles are credited with the early foundations of psychedelia, hard rock, helter skelter, and power pop. Yep. Queen being called overrated is offensive in the same context. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I completely agree. That would be said by someone who just doesn't like Queen. But Queen were fucking massive. And for people who like Queen, life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. And, yep, they had some shit songs as well. They had some shit songs. Fat Bottom Girls, shit song. But, you know, who cares? I Want to Ride My Bicycle. Don't let Brian May write the songs. Jesus Christ. Although he did write We Will Rock You, which is quite good. Although there is nothing to We Will Rock You. It's just an intro, isn't it? It's just like a 2.5 minute intro. And then it ends. You're like, where's the song? Where's the song? But it was for the beginning of the gig to get everyone up and yeah, makes sense, doesn't it? Beginning of a gig, and then you go into another song. Oh god, the dark times of the Schumacher Ferrari dominance. Yeah, it got boring. It got very boring very fast. But he was fucking good at driving his car around that fucking circuit, around the circuits. I saw Queen twice. Oh, Harry gels, totes gels, mate, totes gels. There you go. And one Angry says, I may prefer Queen over the Beatles, but I'm not going to call them overrated. Yeah, it's a matter of taste. But I've got a story. I've got a story. I probably shouldn't share, but I had a rule in life that no, I'm not going to tell the story. I'm not going to tell the story, but it ended with someone telling me that someone else thought that the Beatles were overrated. Yeah, yeah, I thought, fuck that. The only reason why Man United dominated Premier League was Alex Ferguson. Look how they performed since he retired. Yeah, but was Alex Ferguson overrated? No, he fucking wasn't. He did really good at what he was supposed to do. Was Elvis overrated? No, he did really good at what he was supposed to do. He was a shit actor. I'm not going to dispute that at all, right? But no one rates him as an actor. And that's kind of the interesting thing here. No one rates Mrs. Brown's Boys. Everyone thinks it's shit. Even the people who watch it and love it think it's shit. And so, yeah, when you talk about the ratings of things, I don't know. There's two ways of looking at it. Obviously, the objective view of objectively, is this a decent thing in its particular area? I'm not a fan of Apple, but do I think Apple are overrated? No, I don't. I think they make very, very good products. They're just not for me, and I find them infuriating. But and then there's the subjective side of it, which is like, how do I feel about Apple? I fucking hate Apple. I think it's rotten to the core. It pisses me off. It deleted all my fucking files. It deleted all of my Lonely Planets PDFs that I had on it. You know, I was like, oh great, I won't have to carry around these massive fucking heavy books everywhere I go around the world. I can just look it up on my iPod Touch, and then I plug it into iTunes for the first time. It deletes all of my Lonely Planet books, which Lonely Planet, who I was working for at the time, had put on the fucking thing for me to have. Anyway, he was not only good at driving, but building a team. That said, I despised him for nearly killing my interest in the sport, and then Red Bull finally finished it, says California. Overrated means that something, be it a person, a movie, a piece of music concept, receives more praise value credit than it actually deserves. Yeah. And I think it works out in the wash. And I think that if you look at something that's 50 years old and people are still rating it 50 years on, then you can't call it overrated. I think that's got to be the acid test there, because people are still rating the Beatles in a way that they're not necessarily rating some of the other Merseybeat bands of the time that you've never even heard of now because they didn't really get anywhere. My mum will tell you that Mrs. Brown's Boys is just a rip-off of old Mother Riley. Or was that awful as well? It's essentially a gap between public reputation and actual quality. Yeah, but I think when you've got a hype train going, because this is interesting, because you bring it into what we were talking about with AI, right? I think AI is overrated, right? I'm going to make that statement now. At the moment, it is overrated. In the same way that in the 1990s, I could sit here in 1995 and say, I think that the internet is overrated, in that there are people who are making these claims that the internet is going to change everything and it's going to happen really, really soon. I think it did change everything, but at the time, it wasn't all that. And I think that's the case. So it's a thing of like looking back years later at something that exists, that was made, was what I mean. You know, we're not in the world of Beatles mania anymore. So we've got a lot more of a objective view of the Beatles, for instance. But you know, we reevaluate people, things, music, books, literature, plays, films years later, and I do think it works out in the wash. I think 50 years on, what are the films that we're still watching? Are they overrated? No. If they were shit, if they were genuinely shit, like Smokey and the Bandit 2, we wouldn't fucking watch it. But Smokey and the Bandit 2, I think in the year that Star Wars came out, made more money than fucking Star Wars. What was better? Yeah. Graham said you can't say X is overrated, and I took the bait. Yeah, I know you did, because you wanted to wind me up. But I mean, that's fine. You know, I like being wound up. But I just feel like I get a bit sensitive about the Beatles. There's a few shows hosted by Howard Goodall, the composer who did the music for Blackadder and Red Dwarf and QI and stuff, and he did at least 2 episodes that I've seen looking at the Beatles and the way that they put the music together, and it's absolutely fascinating. It is absolutely fascinating. The number of levels that went into making something like A Day in the Life is just it's just crazy. They kept coming in each day and go, well, should we do this? Should we do this? And it was stuff that had never been done before. You know, just ideas that they had of how to change music. They took tapes and looped the tapes, which is the birth of dance music. It's the birth of sampling. And yeah, Tomorrow Never Knows. I mean, what a song. What a song. And there you go. No, Graham, you just don't like AI, lol. No, I think at the moment it's overrated, because obviously it's getting these massive... and you know what? I'll say... Is Taylor Swift overrated at the moment? Well, by her fans, yeah, because they're fucking maniacs. So I don't want to say anything bad about Taylor Swift. I'll get all these Swifties at me. But, I mean, if you try and step away from that and go, did she write some really good pop songs? Yeah, she did. Catchy fucking tunes. She's good at that. And she does write her own songs, which is really impressive. So yeah, do I think that she's overrated? Maybe at the moment, a little bit. But 10, 20, 50 years down the line, if people are still listening to Taylor Swift records, I'm not going to say she's overrated. People are still listening to, you know, really good soul and jazz records from the 1950s and 60s and 70s. And I'm not going to say, oh, that's overrated, because I don't like it. And George Harrison was amongst the progressive musicians who funded Monty Python and the Holy Grail, prog rock, funding prog comedy, community ripple effect. That's very true. If it wasn't for George Harrison, you wouldn't have... Life of Brian, you wouldn't have The Long Good Friday. That was Handmade Films. Clockwise, was that Handmade Films? Was one? I don't know. I'm just biased, but Northern Soul is definitely not overrated. Yeah, that's my point, right? I think you can use the term overrated, and it's fair enough for something that's being hyped up at the moment. If you go and see a movie that everyone's going, oh my God, this is the best movie ever. And I kind of hate it when people do this, because it gives you unrealistic expectations, and you watch it and you're like, oh, isn't that good? So I'd rather go in not knowing anything about a movie other than Like, it's not terrible. That's the only thing I need to know about a movie. I don't want to waste my money going to watch a film because it is quite expensive to see a film these days. But I think um, the hype machine, and this ties in with what we were talking about with AI, the hype machine going through the fucking roof means that things have a rating that is higher than it possibly needs at the moment. And you'll see how it shakes out in things like the Internet Movie Database's top 250. There'll be a new movie that'll come out and it'll shoot to like the top 10 because everyone's dead excited about this new movie that's come out. But then as the years go by, it'll start dropping down the rankings as people aren't as hyped about it. And so if someone came up to you and said, I think that 12 Angry Men is the greatest movie ever made, I wouldn't say no. I wouldn't say, yeah, I don't think it is. What about Sunset Boulevard? It's a fucking fantastic film. And but it's still a film that people talk about. It's still a film that people watch. And so if someone said, I hate that movie, I think it's overrated. You're like, well, why is it still current now then? Because like I say, we talk about things being sequels these days. Everything's a fucking sequel. Yeah, it always was, mate. That's nothing new. There was a sequel to King Kong called like Son of Kong or something. Like King Kong was massive, it was hugely influential, and then they made a Son of Kong, and no one went to see it because it was shit. And no one even talks about it. I don't even know if any prints still exist of Son of Kong because it was so crap. But yeah, that's the way things work out. Years later. So my point is, I think within a few years of something coming out, if there's been a lot of hype about it and it's felt like a lot of hot air, yeah, you can say it's overrated. AI at the moment, for what it is overrated. Come back in 50 years' time and see how we feel, and then we'll see how the ratings, because you don't have the same hype. You don't have the same kind of like, oh, you've got to like this thing. You've got to like it. I'm not saying that. I don't think you have to like the Beatles. I don't think you have to like the Stones or Queen. Some people just don't like that music. It's not their cup of tea. Those people are wrong, but it's just not their cup of tea. That's fine. Whether my opinion is definitely overrated. My opinion is definitely overrated. I'm going to ask what AI thinks about Graham Hughes thinks about AI. Go ahead. I forgot Pagan has a sword and I will yield to Pagan. Besides which, I had an intense debate with Salavi the cat yesterday about nuclear power. I think I might have to put on Citizen Kane later. An amazing film. I mean, technically, from a film nerd's point of view, fucking brilliant. You play it to someone who isn't into movies and they'll be bored shitless. Is it overrated? Well, no, it's not. It's a really great movie. It is a really, really good movie, objectively. Just some people might not like it. That's it. Whereas, Mr. Blobby was a really shit song. No one says it's overrated because even though it was Christmas #1 for some reason, just because you managed to count a few beans and shimmy up the ladder, well done. Doesn't make life better for 7.9 billion people. Yeah, I agree. Okay, so we're gonna go to the papers again. Did we go over to the papers? Oh God, complain with me. What? Right. End of an era. Is that Chelsea? Is that Chelsea who's been sacked after 106 days? Was it? Rossinia has been sacked after 101 days. 106 days. That's a bit bad, isn't it? Let me have a look. Rossinia. Liam Rossinia. Yeah, Chelsea. He's been sacked from Chelsea. Good. I'm glad I got that round ball question correct in the quiz there. Thank God for that. Herma pursues witch hunts against troops despite warning. Attorney General ignored concerns that Iraq war allegations were false as he worked on case against soldiers. It's over. Cabinet turns on Starmer over Mandelson's scandal. Bollocks. If he leaves because of this, I will eat my hat. If he leaves because of this. I mean, he might leave after the locals when they get an absolute battering. But I do think, I have got this suspicion that the hammering that Labour are going to take in the locals and in the Scottish and Welsh elections, I think it's factored in. I think they know they're going to get a hammering, so they're just like, well, whatever. I think they're going to stay with him. AI is not overrated. It needs hardware breakthroughs, probably in quantum computer, to make it useful. Miss Paula Thomas, so yeah, I didn't want to go into this deep dive about the meaning of the word overrated. I think that at the moment, where we are now with AI, there is a potential for it to do cool shit in the future. But where we are right now, it is overvalued, and people are therefore giving it more value than it deserves at this moment where we are. And yeah, that's why I'll use the word overrated for it for now. For now, that might change. That might change in the future. You know, maybe when the Beatles first started, when they were just covering other people's fucking music, yeah, overrated. First couple of albums, yeah, not that good. You know, I mean, they're not that good for having girls screaming and having the Beatlemania shit, that sort of thing. Yeah, definitely. But here's the thing as well, right? And there's anyone running around saying Hard Day's Night or Help are like fantastic fucking movies. Do you know what I mean? They're not. The shit. They're really crap. The jokes in them fall flat. You can have a bit of witty scouse banter, but when it's been pre-written, they're reading from a script, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't fucking work. So yeah, I'll agree that but then no one really rates them, so you can't call it overrated because no one rates the Beatles movies because they're all a bit shit. Didn't the director of A Hard Day's Night end up directing Superman 2? Wasn't it Richard Lester? I'm making that up. For Dizz's addiction really shouldn't be enabling. Thank you very much, Chris C. That is very, very kind of you, my friend. That allows me to, for the third time, confetti cannon. Sorry, launch the confetti cannon. What seasonings do you want for your hat, Graham? Yeah, I'll be very, very, very surprised. I'll have to do my little animation saying I was wrong and I accept responsibility as I eat my hat. But yes. Hey, it's made of kangaroo. It might be quite tasty. Karen Ho's book, Empire of AI, reveals the true destruction to vulnerable and minority communities that AI's billionaires care zero for. That is absolutely true. So that's strats for us. And the 300 years in the future. And Leone says, I guess AI is like the internet before broadband was invented. A bit. No. Yeah, maybe. But I can't get away from this analogy about it being like a calculator that gets half the answers wrong. And that is its fatal flaw. It is absolutely fatal flaw. And the problem is at the moment with the way AI works is if you type it in, like, why did you get that wrong? It'll double down and go, no, I haven't got it wrong. There is an S in ChatGPT. And you're like, no, there isn't. That's why they wheeled out Elon and elevated him to position to give false hope to the masses. Fucking Elon. They're already working on DNA computing. That would be interesting. Because that would be quadrinary. It's not binary, is it? It's quadrinary. Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know. Quadrinary. There'll be four possibilities instead of on and off. There'll be G, A, T, and C. Quantum theory is crystal clear for me. One moment, then gone the next. The uncertainty of it all. Yeah. Well, computers work a little bit on quantum uncertainty, don't they? A little bit. We'd have to achieve interstellar mining to a competent level to make it work for the entire population. We'd have the resources or the hardware for every person, says Glory Bullis. And Glory Bullis, for what? Like, what do we need it for in our everyday lives? Like, it's not like I'm desperate to make some fucking AI slop video. Do you know what I mean? If I want to make a short film, I'd much rather get my mates together and put some silly hats on and some makeup and go and shoot it with a fucking smartphone these days. Don't even need to use my camera. No one is going to Mars now. No. Latest on Ginger Island rentals. Do you know what? Bloody super chat gold thing's not working. Okay, I'll have to get that fixed. I'll read this while I'm getting it fixed. Well, I'm getting it fixed. Don't worry. I know how boring it is to just look at me while I'm waiting for things to load up. Cancer diagnosis every 80 seconds across UK. And then we've got doubts over peace talks over Iran sees two ships. I mean, obviously we've talked about what's happening in Iran a lot, and I just want to say, as I often do, I find it just absolutely heartbreaking that this is happening to one of the most beautiful countries in the world. It's some of the kindest people you'll ever hope to meet. Why it's happening is because some gobshites want some more money. That's it. They're all just playing the market. They're playing the poly market, gambling. But it's not gambling because it's just predictive betting. No, not betting. It's not betting. You're just predicting on the betting, not the betting. We're not using the word betting because you got to remember in America, like betting is mad illegal. Like you can't have gambling. If you play poker with your mates, you've got to do it in the basement and no one's got to know about it because it's kind of illegal. But yeah, landing on Mars is a crapshoot. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. It's always been the hook to keep people satisfied. Yellow tail. Red rhyme with kangaroo. The hook is always prolonged life. Yeah, but here's the thing, right? People say that they want prolonged life, but I think when people get to a certain age, just get really fucking bored. You know, people have been retired for 30 years. What have they got to do? You know, they haven't got enough money to spend their life on a cruise, most of them. Well, I suppose some of them do have that. And they still get a state pension on top of the fact that they can afford to go on 3 cruises a year. I'm giving millionaires money. What the hell's that all about? But, I am a defender of the idea of, basic income. But I do think that everyone should get it and not just the insanely rich. Thunderchild was the perfect microcosm of human defiance, a wood and metal steamship punching out an alien war machine from War of the Worlds. I really wish they'd make a really good adaptation of War of the Worlds and set it in the fucking past, set it in the Victorian age. Be so cool. Then I had the privilege of playing in the school orchestra's production of War of the Worlds, piano player. Cool. Very, very cool. It's the guy from ELO who did that, right? PM isolated as cabinet divisions emerge over Mandelson's scandal. Streeting allies now open to rein a pact with cabinet losing confidence in PM. So Keir Starmer's own cabinet are losing confidence in his leadership following Mandelson's security fiasco. Yeah, I mean, I can see him going after the locals and the Scottish and the Welsh elections next month. I can definitely see him going after that at some point. But is he going to go because of Mandelson? No. There might be a little bit of. This is not me trying to wriggle out of eating my hat, but I don't think it's going to be Mandelson alone that takes him down. Who wants to live forever? Well, yeah, not me. I'll get bored. That's why I don't want to live on after my death. Sit on a cloud, play a fucking harp, go on about how great God is. Fuck that shit. I don't want to do that. I'd rather it be like before I was born. It was a lot less inconvenient. Who are brand new VAR is the cover of this star. They're talking about round ball. Gentle parenting is over. It's time you learn to say no to your child. From Charlotte Cripps. Do you reckon Charlotte Cripps went to a posh private school? She probably wasn't even. She was probably put into one of those boarding schools. She probably didn't know her parents growing up. Let's have a look. I'm making loads of assumptions here, but Charlotte Cripps sounds like a kind of a posh name, doesn't it? Let's have a look. She's a writer at the Independent. Independent writer, freelance. Queen's Gate School. Okay, let's have a look. Queen's Gate School might be a comp. Oh no, it's not. It's a private day school for girls aged 4 to 18 in Queensgate, South Kensington. Oh, South Kensington. Oh my God, she went to private school in Kensington. It's time to say no to your child. Listen, come here. Right. The day I take parenting advice from some posh motherfucker who went to a private school, a really fucking eye-wateringly expensive private school in Kensington, is the day that I will, I don't know, walk into the sea forever. Fuck off. I don't care what you think. You've not had a normal upbringing. You don't have a normal life. You live in a fucking bubble. You've never lived in the real world. You have no working class friends. The only friends that you have of ethnic diversity are people whose parents could afford to go to the schools, so their parents are probably, I don't know, corrupt officials from some other country. So yeah, fuck off. Don't need your parenting advice. I'm going to say no to you. Hey, Charlotte? No. PM fired Robbins before he could defend himself as Starmer fights for survival. Sacked civil servants supporters. That's easy for you to say. Demolished claim that he was dismissed after failing to explain why he didn't raise an alarm after about Mandelson and insist he was given no chance to save his job. And then we got work-shy Brits. Not this pair. Great Gran is still full-time nursing at age 80. And dad cycles 60 miles a day to earn a living. Yeah, people aren't lazy. I hate this idea that people are lazy. It often comes from the type, the type of that, like that Charlotte woman who like to, just cast aspersions on other people's parenting techniques or say, oh, they're lazy, the hyperload, they're lazy, they're lazy. And it's like, fuck off. All the people I know work really fucking hard. Charlotte Cripps, that sounds like a name that's never heard. No. Yes, it does. It does. Okay. So, finally, we're going to go on to the Financial Times and then I'll let you go. God, this is a mammoth show, isn't it? We're in over 2.5 hours we've been going on for now. Jesus Christ. I'm sorry for blathering on so much, but we started talking about AI and then we went via Shakespeare, Tolkien, the Beatles, all kinds of stuff. Beatles, big fan of Tolkien, by the way. They wanted to make a version of the Lord of the Rings, with the four boys playing different characters in Lord of the Rings. I think John was supposed to be Gandalf. That would have been funny. Do not tempt me, Frodo. I'm guessing the Daily Fail is reporting on the caring Sunak, the wet concerned about AI affecting youth job opportunities while being a consultant for an AI company. No. Who stands to profit from a business degree? No, they're not reporting that. Splicing Kia with Kemi would win my vote. Fucking hell. What? This is a really weird story in the Financial Times that's worth talking about. There is a story in the Financial Times about having Kemi Starmer. I'm not kidding. This is not something I just made up. Kemi Starmer. Just really weird op-ed from the Financial Times here. I'll show you this, right? I'm not making this up. I don't know if the Financial Times had a fit of the vapors. Britain's desperate need for Kia Badenoch. Yeah. Lol, you what? I always thought FT was a semi-serious rag until I saw this headline. Yeah, mate, so did I. Fucking that is crazy, isn't it? That is just a mad headline. Kia Badenoch. Sorry, not Kemi Starmer. I said it the wrong way around. Kia Badenoch. Okay. Fit of the vapors there from the Financial Times, but suppose you got to put some mad shit in now. Keep things interesting. Trump shift. Chip revival kept on hold. Workers at Broadcom semiconductor plant outside Allentown, Pennsylvania. High-tech manufacturing has deep roots in the state, but as America tries to wrestle the industry back from Asia, a promised revival is failing to take off as federal cash fails to arrive. What a surprise. Trump promising the world and delivering nothing. Just spot a trend here. Iran seizes 2 ships and show of force as bid to revive peace talks flounders. Obviously, this is just going to go on forever now. There's going to be peace talks and the market's going to go up, and then there's going to be a failure of peace talks. The market's going to go down, and Trump's mates are going to make fuckloads of money out of it. Job concerns deepen after the UK suffers highest tax rise on wages in rich world. Tax rise on wages for a typical single worker rose more in the UK last year than any other rich country, according to the new OECD report, reflecting higher employer national insurance contributions and financial drag. Also got pension funds warned over retreat from private assets. And we've got Starmer suffers cabinet grilling over Mandelson, which was mentioned before. Wow, we've hit 12 o'clock. The EU eyes Arctic oil U-turn, the top end London cheaper, the fit and proper test ease, the EQD ups for Intertech, UBS in $20 billion capital call. Russia squeezes Berlin, and Americans look to Ireland. If you can make sense of any of those headlines, then you could do a better job than me. Right, I'm going to get going because it is midday. I've got shit to do. Hey, listen, sorry about not doing a show last night. I tried to get something organised, but I just didn't do it in time. And it's to do with, obviously, fixing up the channel now with the new ident of Fuse of the World and a few little background things that I need to be getting on with in the background. But I will try and do a show tonight. So do us a favour. Do us a favour, as I ask at the end of every show. Give us a like. All of you, just give us a like right now. Go on, do it. And please. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. But if you are subscribed, hit the bell notification icon. If I do a show tonight, you will get a little ding dong in your pocket to let you know that I'm going to go live with something. And it might not just be me, it might be someone else who's equally as charismatic and interesting. Possibly not. So listen, I'm going to fuck off now. I'm definitely be back for tomorrow when we'll be doing the morning brew in the morning. But we're not going to be doing the agenda because that's moved to Monday, and we're not going to be doing the Friday night social because I'm taking the executive decision to move it to Sundays. So we're going to be doing the Friday night social on Sundays from now on, which is going to give me more opportunities to free up my weekends to go and do stuff, because it was like we couldn't go anywhere. If we wanted to go somewhere on a Friday night and then stay over for 2 nights over to the weekend, we couldn't do it. And if I was going to Liverpool for the weekend to see my mum and my dad, I'd have to take all my kit with me so I could do shows. And it's not just like I could do it off my phone, which I can do when I'm doing a solo show like this. I can do this on my phone, but for something where I've got to have Zoom running and windows with other people in them, I can't use my phone for that. So there you go. Cheers to the show, Graham. Cheers for being Chris. And Dragon's being there. Nice being with you all. Take care. So have a lovely, lovely day. Thank you so much for staying with us. Thanks for all your chat. I love a bit of bants in the chat, and it's all in good spirits, good humour. But the Beatles aren't overrated, and if you say they are, I'll come for you. I'll come. No, I'm joking. I don't care that much. Either way, honest guff. Thanks very much. Liz says, fabulous stream as always. Oh, thank you, Liz. Oh, a little bit of positive feedback there. I love that. Thank you very much. And yeah, until I see you again, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.